He thought he was saving her, but he was really delivering her into the next cycle of violence. Elena enters the Varley family as a bride, but she is received like an offering. Adrian tries to use marriage as redemption, as if love can wash blood from a dynasty built on fear. Then he dies, and Marcus inherits not only the empire but the woman left behind in its ruins. This is not merely a mafia tragedy. It is a story about grief becoming power, about a woman forced into captivity who slowly realizes that survival in a violent system may require becoming fluent in its language.
So get this. The first dance isn't even over when her white dress gets a brand new crimson paint job. Elena Varley married Adrian, the gentle son of the city's top crime family, thinking he was her ticket out of the darkness. Spoiler alert, she was dead wrong. He dies right there in her arms, taken out in the middle of their own wedding. But the real nightmare fuel kicks in when his ruthless, scarred-up brother, Marcus, steps right over Adrian's body. The look in his eyes wasn't grief. It was a freaking inferno as he dropped the 5 words that nuked her world. You belong to me now. To see how Elena navigates a life where love and a gun are the same thing, you gotta stick around for the brutal finish. That Varley estate, it was a lie, never looking like the 5-star slaughterhouse it was about to become. The place looked like a magazine cover, with its marble pillars, crystal chandeliers, and gardens so perfect they looked like CGI. Elena was on Adrian's arm, on these same grounds just 3 months ago, buying his whole story about safety, about his family being her personal fortress, that her life on the run was done. She forced herself to believe him, tuning out every alarm bell screaming in her head. Now she's in the bridal suite, her gown spilling around her like a puddle of milk, staring at herself in the mirror. The dress alone was worth more than her mom made in a year. The diamonds on her neck were the real deal. The smile on her face, though, 100% fake. You look stunning, Maria, the old woman handling the prep, told her. Maria's hands were gentle as she fixed the veil, but Elena clocked the deep sadness in her eyes, like she was prepping a sacrificial lamb, not a bride. Thanks, Elena mumbled, feeling less beautiful and more like a traded commodity. The Varleys needed a squeaky clean bride, an outsider who could put up a legitimate front for the public. Adrian needed a wife to get his old man off his back. Elena needed a hiding spot from the guys who iced her father and were now after her. She'd convinced herself it was a fair deal. Adrian, to his credit, was decent about it. During their whirlwind engagement, he put on a good show of courting her with dinners and feigned conversations. He had kind eyes and a charming smile, a nice change from the usual predators. I know this isn't your dream scenario, he admitted one night, but I'll be good to you, Elena. I promise. She chose to believe him because she was fresh out of options. A knock at the door made her jump. It is time, Maria said softly. Elena's hands were shaking as she grabbed her bouquet. White roses. Of course, every single detail was engineered to scream purity, a perfectly crafted lie. The ceremony itself was a complete haze. The estate's ballroom was a fantasy world of white flowers, gold accents, and enough candles to burn the whole place down. Hundreds of guests packed the seats, politicians and moguls with smiles that were all teeth. The Varley family commanded the front rows, ruling like kings in their court. Elena's side, however, was practically empty. She had no family left to invite, and no friends who dare attend a Varley function, just a few distant relatives there out of pure obligation. Adrian stood at the altar, the spitting image of a perfect gentleman. When she got to him, he took her hand and gave it a gentle, reassuring squeeze. You are doing perfectly, he whispered. The officiant started talking, but Elena didn't hear a word. Her eyes were glued to the man behind Adrian, his best man, his brother, Marcus Varley. She'd met him only once before at a family dinner. He was dead silent, his dark, unreadable eyes just sizing her up while everyone else chatted. Adrian had explained that Marcus stayed out of the spotlight, running the family's security. A nice way of saying he handled the dirty work. Where Adrian was conventionally handsome, Marcus was all jagged edges and raw power, taller, broader, with a face that looked like it was carved from rock and then smashed. A scar ran from his left eyebrow down to his jaw, a white line cutting through his stubble. His suit was perfectly tailored, but he wore it like a cage. And the way he stared at her wasn't with admiration or curiosity. Marcus looked at her like she was a complicated problem he was about to solve, or a fatal error he was planning to erase. Elena ripped her gaze away, forcing herself to focus on Adrian as they said their vows. His voice was steady, sounded sincere. For the kiss, he leaned in carefully like she was made of glass. The guests clapped. The music started. It was done. She was now Elena Varley, property of a killer dynasty, like it or not. The reception kicked off instantly. Champagne was flowing nonstop while a string quartet played some delicate tune, a backdrop for all the fake laughter and chit-chat. This wasn't a marriage. It was a contract signed in public. Elena's smile was a mask she held until her face ached, shaking countless hands and forgetting names as soon as she heard them. People offered congratulations that were as empty as their glasses. Adrian stuck by her side, playing the attentive husband, but the tension in his shoulders gave him away. His eyes were constantly scanning the room like a man waiting for a bomb to go off. "Are you okay?" Elena whispered when they had a second. "I'm fine," he answered, way too quickly. "So many faces, it's hard to watch them all." "It's the security, isn't it?" He looked surprised she caught on. "My father invited some associates who don't really get along. It's handled. Marcus has his men everywhere. Nothing is going to happen." But the way his knuckles were white on his champagne glass told her he was trying to convince himself, not her. Elena's gaze followed his across the room. Near the entrance stood Marcus, a statue carved out of the shadows, his eyes methodically sweeping over the guests. He was a predator sorting through the prey, every muscle tight and ready. And then for a split second, his eyes met Elena's. The raw power in his stare literally took her breath away. It wasn't lust. She was pretty sure it wasn't. It was something way darker, more complex. Maybe anger or even resentment, like he blamed her for some crime she hadn't even committed yet. She broke eye contact first. "Dance with me?" Adrian asked, offering his hand. "The first dance, I guess. Another photo op." Elena let him guide her to the floor. The band switched to a waltz and Adrian pulled her close, just enough to look romantic for the crowd, but with a gap that felt safe. His hand rested lightly on her waist. "You are doing beautifully," he said as they turned. "I know this is not easy." "It is fine," Elena lied. "After tonight, things will get simpler. We'll find our groove." "I meant what I promised. I will look after you." She wanted to believe that so badly. She was desperate to think this sham marriage could work, that she could actually have a life here. They moved in sync with the music, the floor filled with other couples, a blur of fake smiles, nervous businessmen, and gossiping women. And with every single turn, she could see Marcus in the background, always watching, always calculating. "Why does your brother hate me?" The question slipped out before she could bite it back. Adrian's rhythm faltered. "What? Marcus does not hate you. He looks at me like I've..." I don't know, like I've personally offended him. Marcus looks at everyone like that. Don't take it personally. But his voice was tight. He is protective. He doesn't trust people easily. Give him time. Time? As if time was going to fix the way Marcus's eyes burned a hole through her, like she was something that needed to be exterminated. The music swelled. Adrian spun her gently. For one tiny moment, Ilna almost fell for the fantasy. A bride, her husband, safe. Then the first gunshot ripped through the melody. It came from near the doors. It was a sharp crack that sliced right through the violins and the buzzing conversations. For a split second, everything froze, as if the whole room was hoping they'd misheard. Then a scream cut through the silence, and the ballroom exploded into total chaos. Adrian's hand locked on Elena's wrist, yanking her down as more shots popped off. They slammed onto the marble floor amid shattering glass and panicked screams. Elena couldn't see the shooter, just a blur of running figures and falling bodies. "Stay down!" Adrian yelled, trying to cover her with his own body, but then he jerked hard and his grip on her wrist suddenly went slack. A red flower bloomed on the white fabric of his shirt, spreading with horrifying speed. Adrian, he became a dead weight, one final crushing hug that pulled them both down. His eyes were wide with a question he'd never get to ask. Adrian. Elena's arms were around him, the warmth of his blood soaking her gown, a heat that felt so fundamentally wrong. A wet whisper came from his lips. "No, no, Elena, run!" She wouldn't. "I'm not leaving you." He repeated it, weaker this time. "Run!" The focus just drained from his eyes. So much blood. Elena pressed her hands over the wound, a useless prayer against the inevitable, because she knew what death looked like. The wedding music was still playing as the light went out of Adrian's eyes and he was gone. And just like that, the whole world explodes into absolute chaos. Guns blazing, people screaming, fancy crystal getting shattered. Elena is literally frozen, a statue in the middle of a hurricane. Her new husband's life is all over her dress, her hands, her soul. Then a steel grip yanks her out of her trance, pulling her up so hard it's gonna leave a bruise. She looks up and it's Marcus. He's got blood on his face, his suit's torn, but his eyes completely empty, reflecting none of the carnage. "Let go!" she begs, trying to pull away. His grip just gets tighter. "You need to move. Now." Then he drops the bomb. Adrian is dead. Those words just crash into the ruins of her world. "And you'll be next if you stay here." He doesn't give her a choice, just starts dragging her away from Adrian's body, away from the ballroom that's now a full-blown war zone. Elena can't even feel her own legs, tripping over her ruined dress as Marcus carves a path straight for a side exit. The room is a total bloodbath. Varelli's guys are fighting masked attackers over the bodies of guests and guards. This grand ballroom is now a straight-up slaughterhouse. Marcus kicks open a service door, shoves her into a cold concrete hallway where the sounds of the fight turn into a dull, distant rumble. "Stay here," Marcus orders. Elena's question, "Where are you going?" gets stuck in her throat. He's already turning back, pulling a handgun out of his jacket like it's nothing. He moves like a freaking predator, not some guy who just lost his brother. Elena just slumps against the wall, shaking like a leaf. Her wedding dress is literally a canvas painted with Adrian's blood. Her hands won't stop trembling. He's gone. Her sweet, gentle Adrian, the one who promised to protect her, was butchered on the night that should have been their beginning. and now his brother is running back into the fire, some kind of avenging angel she doesn't recognize. The gunfire starts to fade. The minutes feel like an eternity. Elena tries to ground herself, focusing on her own racing heartbeat just to stay standing. The door flies open and she jumps. It's Marcus, gun still out, his hands now completely red. She has no idea whose blood it is. Is it over? Her voice is super fragile. For now. He puts his gun away, his eyes finally landing on her. He gives her a top-to-bottom scan, the bloody dress, the shaking, the tear-streaked face, like he's taking inventory. A tiny flicker of some emotion crosses his face, and then it's gone. Can you walk? She nods, a total lie she hopes her body believes. He just turns and starts walking, expecting her to follow him. She makes her legs work, trailing after him like a ghost through the mansion's hidden hallways. They pass armed dudes with grim faces, their clothes showing they've been in the fight. Nobody says a word. They pop up in a private wing, still fancy but not as flashy. Marcus stops at a bedroom and opens the door. Elena hesitates. The room is big but empty. A bed, a dresser, dark curtains. It's a gilded cage, all pretty and barren. Inside, Marcus says. It's not a suggestion, it's a command you don't break. She steps in, and he follows, the door shutting behind them with a quiet final click. The silence between them is so thick you could choke on it. Marcus finally breaks it, pulling out his phone. It's done. 12 of theirs, 6 of ours. Adrian is gone. His voice is completely flat, like he's reading a shopping list. No, she's with me. I have it handled. He ends the call, and those cold, calculating eyes are on her again. Take off the dress. The words send a shiver down her spine. What? You're covered in his blood. Bathroom's through there. Shower. There are clothes in the closet. He's just barking orders, not talking to his brother's grieving wife. I want to see Adrian. No. He's my husband. Was. That one word just hangs in the air, so cruel and final as he steps toward her, backing her against the wall. He doesn't even touch her, but his presence is a physical thing, sucking all the air out of the room. Adrian's body is being handled. You will shower, you will change, and you will wait here until I get back. You can't just lock me in here. I can do exactly what I want. His voice gets low, laced with pure steel. You are in my home, under my protection. You will follow my orders. Do you understand? Elena's throat feels tight. This isn't a brother's grief. This is a warden laying down the law, total control, and she is completely at his mercy. Why? She whispers. A flash of something that looks like dark humor crosses his scarred face. Because you have value. Because they will come for you. Because, like it or not, you're a Varelli now. He leans in closer, his voice a low-key threat. And because I'm damn sure you'll run the first chance you get. I have nowhere to go. Exactly. Marcus pulls away. Shower. Change. The windows are alarmed. The door will be guarded. Don't do anything stupid. He turns, his hand on the doorknob. Marcus, her voice cracks. What happens now? He stops, quiet for a long moment. When he finally speaks, his voice is soft, almost thoughtful. That, he says, the words quiet and final, is entirely up to you. He leaves, and the sound of the lock clicking is the final brutal punctuation mark. For a second, Elena's just frozen. Then all her strength gives out. She slides to the floor, her ruined dress pooling around her as she finally completely breaks down. Adrian was dead. Her protector, her promise of safety, her gentle love, just gone. And now there's Marcus, his terrifying brother, who sees her as both a problem and a prize, and who just made her his prisoner. She thought getting married was her escape. Instead, it just sprang a much deadlier trap. Finally, the tears stop. Elena gets to her feet, shaky but determined. She knew she couldn't just stay a wreck on the floor. The bathroom was just as cold and sterile as the bedroom, offering zero comfort. With shaking fingers, she gets out of the ruined dress, a second skin caked in blood, and leaves it in a pile. The water runs red as she gets in the shower, trying to wash off Adrian's blood and the broken dream of their future. She just stands there until the water turns clear, then ice cold. The closet is full of men's clothes, Marcus's. She grabs the smallest shirt and some sweatpants. They felt like a blank slate, erasing the bride she was just hours ago. Dressed in her jailer's clothes, she sits on the bed and starts the long wait. Darkness falls outside the heavy curtains. She drifts in and out of a nightmare-filled sleep, jumping at every little sound. The lock finally turns late at night, or maybe it was early morning. She'd lost all track of time. Marcus walks in with a tray holding a sandwich, fruit, and water. He sets it on the dresser, his face wearing that same unreadable, ice-cold mask. Eat! Just a single clipped order. She doesn't move. The men who attacked us? They are gone, he says, his answer totally empty of emotion. The ones we found. He leans against the wall, arms crossed, now in a clean black shirt and pants. But you could tell the fight was still clinging to him. The ones we missed will be dealt with. Who were they? Does it matter? Yes. Her hands clench into fists. Your brother died for me. I have a right to know who took his life. When she says Adrian's name, something, pain, anger, maybe both, flashes in Marcus's eyes for a split second before it's gone. Business rivals. They thought hitting us at a wedding would send a message. His jaw gets tight. They miscalculated. What message? That the Varellis are weak, vulnerable. He starts pacing like a caged tiger. My father built an empire on fear. Adrian was our pretty front man, the civilized face for a savage business. Tonight proved that strategy is a total failure. Elena watches him pace back and forth, all predator. And what are you? Marcus stops and looks right at her. I am the shadow that lets the family pretend to be respectable. The one who kills people? Yes. He just admits it, straight up, which is way more chilling than any lie. Why am I here? If I was a threat, you would have killed me. So what's my purpose? Marcus watches her, and a slow, assessing smirk touches his lips. It has zero warmth. You're smarter than you look. Answer me. You are a playing piece, he says, plain and simple. Your family name carries weight, and you are Adrian's widow. That makes you an asset to our enemies. So until I figure out what to do with you, you're staying right here, where I control every single variable. I'm a person, not a variable. In my world, Marcus steps toward her, his eyes burning into her. Everyone is a variable. You want the truth? Here it is. I never wanted Adrian to marry you. I told him it was a stupid move, that bringing an outsider into this family was just asking for trouble. But he was stubborn. He said you needed protection, that we owed your father a debt. Elena's heart just stops. You knew my father? Everyone in our world knew Anthony Costa. He worked for us for 15 years before he made the fatal mistake of trying to leave. Marcus's face turns to stone. Adrian talked our father into letting him go peacefully, to let him take his daughter and just disappear. And boom, that safety net got shredded when those same rivals finally found him. The room started tilting. Are you saying my dad actually worked for the Varellis? He handled our cash flow, knew where every dollar came from and where it went. When he wanted out, he flipped from being our guy to being a huge problem. Marcus watched her face, his stare totally detached. Adrian was wrecked with guilt over it. He thought marrying you was some kind of fix. I told him it would backfire, that you'd become a target for our enemies. And what do you know? He's gone, and I was on the money. Marcus's voice dropped to absolute zero. But he's dead, so his debts are now mine. That includes his wife. Elena's hands started shaking all over again. The whole story of her life, every little detail Adrian had fed her, was a total fabrication. Her father wasn't some poor bookkeeper caught in the crossfire. He was a key player in their operation, and Adrian's proposal wasn't a rescue mission. It was an apology to her. I want out, she whispered, her voice barely there. No, you said I could use you. Fine. Put the word out that I'm available. Let them come get me. I'm done with this life. Marcus moved so fast it was unreal. 1 second, he was on the other side of the room. The next, his hand was wrapped around her neck. Not to choke her, but to pin her, forcing her to look right at him. You don't get a choice, he breathed. Your choices vanished the minute you took my brother's name. For better or worse, you're a Varelli now. That name is branded on you. You can't wash it off, you can't outrun it. The only decision left is if you lean into it or waste what's left of your short life fighting it. Elena glared back, her heart hammering against his hand. Why do you even care if I accept it? For a long beat, Marcus just stared. His thumb brushed along her jaw, a surprisingly soft move that totally clashed with his iron grip. Then he released her, stepping away. Eat. Get some sleep. We'll figure out what's next in the morning. He left without another word, the sound of the key turning in the lock echoing through the space. Elena stood in the heavy silence, her hand on her neck where she could still feel the ghost of his touch. Her mind was a chaotic mess, replaying every bomb he dropped about her father, about Adrian, and the real reason she was even here. She'd married into the Varelli family thinking it was her salvation, but salvation was never on the table. There were just different kinds of prisons closing in around her. And Marcus, the scarred, brutal Marcus who looked at her like she was a mix of a burden and a prize, was holding every single key. Elena pulled the tray over and forced herself to eat. It wasn't about hunger, it was about getting strong enough for whatever fresh hell was coming. To survive in this savage new world, she had to ditch the helpless widow act everyone saw. She needed to become something more. 3 agonizing days passed before Marcus showed up again. 3 days of silent guards bringing food trays, refusing to even look at her. 3 days of staring at the same walls, checking the sealed windows and hearing the constant muffled sound of patrolling footsteps. 3 days of Elena pacing the room like a caged animal, running through every possible escape plan and hitting a brick wall every time. She'd even tried the door on the 2nd day. The guard outside just pushed her back inside without a word. His hand on her shoulder was heavy, not painful, but completely without warmth. It was a cold reminder that she was property now, not a person. On the morning of the 4th day, the lock clicked and Marcus came in. He looked like he hadn't slept a wink. He had dark circles under his eyes, a rough layer of stubble on his jaw, and a new cut on his forehead that wasn't there before. but his suit was perfect, his stance rigid and in control. Whatever he'd just gone through, he hadn't broken. "Get dressed," he ordered flatly. "Wear something suitable. You have 10 minutes." Elena stood up from the bed. "For what?" "Because I said so." "That's not an answer." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "You need answers? Fine. Adrian's funeral is in 2 hours. You need to be there. My father wants to see the heartbroken widow playing her role by the graveside. So you'll pick a black dress, keep your mouth shut, and do exactly what I tell you. Got it?" The words hit her like a punch to the gut. Adrian's funeral. Right. She'd been so lost in her own prison drama, she'd almost forgotten he was dead. Almost forgotten that just 4 days ago she'd held him while he bled out on a fancy ballroom floor. A hot flush of shame washed over her. "I don't have anything to wear," she said quietly. Marcus just nodded at the wardrobe. "Look again." Elena yanked the closet open. Instead of just Marcus's oversized clothes, there was now a full rack of women's outfits, mostly somber dresses and funeral attire. Somebody had been in her room while she was sleeping. The thought made her skin crawl. She grabbed the most conservative dress she could find. Black, long-sleeved, high-necked. It was simple, designed not to attract attention. Today was about being a ghost, not the main character. 8 minutes, Marcus's voice cut in from behind her. Elena spun around. "Can I have some privacy?" "No." "Excuse me? I don't trust you not to try something dumb. Change in here or don't. Your call." Heat flooded Elena's face. "You have got to be kidding me." Marcus just crossed his arms, leaning against the wall, looking completely bored. 7 minutes! The absolute jerk. Elena snatched the dress and slammed the bathroom door way harder than she needed to. She changed in a rush, her fingers now shaking with pure rage instead of fear. When she emerged, Marcus hadn't moved an inch, totally unfazed. "Shoes are by the door," he said. "Let's go." The heels were simple black pumps that fit okay. Elena put them on and followed Marcus out of the room, taking her first breath of non-recycled air in 4 days. The hallway outside was just as cold and sterile as she remembered. Cream walls, expensive art that made you feel nothing, and a thick carpet that ate every sound. They walked past other closed doors. Muffled voices leaked from a few, but you couldn't make out the words. The Varelli compound was massive, probably covering a few acres. She'd only seen a tiny piece of it on her wedding day. Wedding day. The phrase was like ash in her mouth now. Marcus led her down a huge staircase into a foyer that opened onto a circular driveway. A fleet of black cars waited like a funeral procession, which is exactly what it was. Guys in dark suits stood around, smoking and talking quietly. They all shut up the second Marcus appeared, their eyes sliding over to Elena with the mix of curiosity and contempt. She just lifted her chin and kept walking. Marcus opened the door of a polished black sedan with blacked-out windows. Once she was in, Elena slid over on the leather seat. Marcus got in beside her but kept a very deliberate distance between them. The driver got in without a word and pulled away from the compound. They rode through the city in a thick, tense quiet. Elena watched the buildings fly by, seeing people on the sidewalks living their normal lives, clueless that she was trapped in a moving cage. A powerful urge to bang on the glass and scream for help rose in her throat. But what was the point? Nobody steps in for people like her. Nobody was stupid enough to cross the Varellis. "Where is the funeral?" she asked, mostly just to break the horrible silence. "Family cemetery," About 20 minutes outside the city. Marcus didn't even look at her when he answered. His gaze was fixed on something outside the window, his jaw tight. Will a lot of people be there? Enough. And if they ask me questions, what do I say? Nothing. You don't speak unless I give you permission. Marcus finally turned to face her, his dark eyes like cold, hard stone. You will stand where I put you. You will cry if you can manage it, but you will not get noticed. That's it. But I'm his wife. They will expect exactly what I tell them to expect. His voice became a low-key threat. You seem to have forgotten your situation here, Elena, so let me refresh your memory. You're not some sad widow who has options. You're a complication I'm dealing with until I figure out what to do with you. You're still breathing only because killing you would be more of a hassle than letting you live. Don't make me reconsider that calculation. A lump formed in Elena's throat. Are you threatening to kill me? I'm giving you the facts. Marcus looked back out the window. Adrian's death left a power vacuum. Other families are circling now, looking for weakness. My father's getting old, which is a liability. So it's on me to hold our world together against everyone trying to tear it down. I don't have time for your emotional drama, so you will play your part today. And maybe your prison will stay this room and not a hole in the ground. The rest of the drive passed in a heavy, brittle silence. The family cemetery sat on a hill overlooking the city, surrounded by iron and stone. So they pull up to this exclusive cemetery, a place where the rich pay big bucks to keep their dead from mixing with the peasants. The narrow road is already clogged with fancy cars. Marcus gets out first, playing the perfect gentleman to open Elena's door for her. She takes his hand because saying no would just cause a scene. His grip tightens on hers, a not-so-subtle flex to remind her who's in charge. The whole crowd of mourners pivots to watch them arrive. Elena recognizes faces from the wedding, politicians, business partners, guys who probably celebrated Adrian's death with champagne. The rest are strangers, all of them staring at Elena like she's some kind of train wreck. The hole in the ground is already waiting. A slick, ridiculously expensive mahogany coffin sits on some brass stands. White flowers are everywhere, and the overpowering smell makes Elena's stomach turn. Marcus steers her to the front seats, his hand a heavy weight on her lower back. An old guy is sitting in the main chair, his silver hair perfect, not a strand out of place from grief. Elena knows him from pictures. Vincent Varley, the patriarch, the dude who built a whole empire on violence. His pale eyes slide from Marcus to her as they walk up. She's here, just like you asked, Marcus announces. Vincent's gaze locks onto Elena, sizing her up. You're smaller than I thought you'd be. What are you even supposed to say to that? Elena says nothing. Sit. Vincent gestures to the chair beside his. She obeys. Marcus stands guard behind her, looking less like family and more like a prison warden. The ceremony kicks off. Some priest starts spewing empty phrases, from ash to ash, from dust to dust, the same old script they use to clean up a violent hit. Elena barely hears a word. She's just staring at the casket, trying to process that Adrian is actually inside, that the guy who promised to protect her is now just that. She knows she's supposed to be crying. That's what a widow does at a funeral, but her eyes are completely dry. The world feels fuzzy and distant, like she's just an extra in someone else's drama. Vincent leans in, his voice a low whisper just for her. Adrian held you in high regard. Elena blinks. Sir? My son. He said you had a hidden strength, that you'd survived storms that would break other people. Vincent's face gives nothing away. Was he right? I can't say. You will, he replies, turning his attention back to the priest. The service wraps up. People shuffle by the coffin, offering Vincent hollow, rehearsed condolences. Elena watches these predators in their expensive suits and wonders how many of them wanted Adrian dead. When it's time to lower the coffin, Marcus's hand lands on her shoulder. Stand. Elena gets to her feet. The casket sinks into the earth, and she knows some big emotion is supposed to hit. Grief, anger, anything. Instead, there's just a massive, hollow void where her heart should be. Someone shoves a white rose into her hand. The message is obvious. Innocence, sorrow, all the BS she's supposed to feel. Elena drops it onto the coffin without a shred of emotion and walks away. The wake, of course, is held back at the estate. The same ballroom where Adrian was murdered is now sparkling clean, every sign of the hit erased like it never happened. Elena wonders if her blood-soaked wedding dress is still in the house, or if they just burned it. Marcus shadows her every move as people offer fake sympathies. Most of them ignore Elena completely, giving their condolences to Vincent or Marcus as if she's invisible. The few who do speak to her give her cold nods and even colder stares. Mrs. Virelli. A guy in a tailored gray suit appears next to her, his smile all sharp edges. My deepest sympathies for your loss. Thank you, Elena says on autopilot. Robert Chen, he introduces himself. I was a business associate of your late husband. A terrible tragedy. Indeed, you must be completely destroyed. His eyes practically called her a liar. If I can be of any assistance. Before she can even answer, Marcus is right there at her side. Mr. Chen, I wasn't aware you were on the guest list. The air around them instantly chills. Chen's smile doesn't falter. I came to offer my respects. How considerate. Marcus's hand clamps onto Elena's waist, totally possessive. But my sister-in-law is exhausted. I'm sure you can appreciate that. But of course, Chen's eyes dart between them, his brain clearly working overtime. We will speak again, Mrs. Varley. Then he vanishes back into the crowd. Who was that? Elena demands. Someone who covets what he cannot possess, Marcus replies, pulling her away. Do not speak to him again. I wasn't going to. I have no interest in your intentions. Avoid him. Marcus's jaw was set like stone, his hand still locked on her waist. In fact, you will not speak to anyone unless I am present. For how much longer? Indefinitely, until I decide otherwise. Elena yanks away from him. I am not some animal you can order around. No, you are a widow at a funeral, and that makes you a target for every shark in this room seeking an advantage. Marcus snatches her wrist before she can back away. I know you are furious. I know you want to defy me at every turn because it gives you the illusion of power. But I am all that stands between you and 100 different ways to die. So you will swallow your pride, you will stay by my side, and you will not get us both killed. His grip wasn't painful, but it was a steel trap. Elena stared into his eyes, catching a flicker behind that stone-cold mask. Maybe it was real worry, or maybe just him being practical. With Marcus, you could never tell. Fine, she choked out. He dropped her wrist, but didn't back off. 2 more hours, and this nightmare is over. Time moved like sludge. Elena was glued to Marcus's side as a whole parade of phonies offered their empty sympathies. She faked a smile, nodded on cue, and played the role of the perfect, destroyed widow. And the whole time she was watching, she saw Marcus track every single person who got near them, saw how he tensed up when anyone lingered for a second too long. She watched Vincent hold court in the middle of the room, taking condolences like a king collecting taxes. She clocked the guards at every exit, their hands hovering near their hidden hardware. This wasn't a wake. It was a war zone dressed up in black suits. When Marcus finally walked her to the car, Elena's face ached from her fake grieving performance and her feet were screaming. The second she was inside, she kicked off her heels and shut her eyes. "You played your part well," Marcus noted as the estate vanished behind them. Elena's eyes snapped open. He was analyzing her. "I stood still and kept my mouth shut. That's not exactly hard." "You'd be surprised how many people can't even manage that." He loosened his tie, the first time he'd relaxed all day. "My father was impressed. Should I feel honored? You should feel intelligent." Marcus leaned back into the leather seat. "Vincent is not a man who is easily impressed. That he even addressed you directly is noteworthy. He asked if Adrian was right about me." "What was that about?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Adrian was convinced you could acclimate, that you were more resilient than you appeared. My father wished to judge for himself, and he did. He saw someone who did not fracture under duress, someone with the potential to survive in this life." Marcus's stare held hers. Whether that is a blessing or a curse has yet to be determined. Silence filled the car again. Elena watched the city lights blur past the window, her mind a total chaos of everything that had just happened. The funeral, the wake, the circling predators with their fake smiles and very real menace. She had survived the day, just barely. But how many more days like this could she possibly handle? Upon returning to the estate, Marcus led her to her room, her cell, and turned the key. Elena braced for him to push her inside and leave like usual. Instead, he stepped into the room with her, shutting the door. Elena's heart started hammering against her ribs. "What are you doing? We have to talk." Marcus moved to the window, checked the locks, then scanned the room as if he were looking for bugs. "Sit down. I have been sitting all day." "Elena?" Her name was a sharp command. "Sit." The command was quiet, but she did it, sitting the bed's edge with her fingers tangled together. Marcus kept pacing, a caged tiger with a darkness in his eyes she'd never seen before. "The wedding." He started, then stopped. "It wasn't a coincidence. You called them business rivals. They were," he admitted, "but they had a guide. They knew the timing, security rotations, exactly where Adrian would be." His hands clenched into fists. The hit was just too clean. A cold dread washed over Elena. "You mean someone on the inside helped?" "Yes." "Who?" "That," he said, stopping to face her, "is what I need you to find out. I need everything Adrian ever said to you. Every word. His business, the people he met, his plans. I hardly knew the man. We were engaged for 2 months, and he spent most of it traveling. We never had what you'd call deep talks." "Then give me what you do have," Marcus pushed, pulling a chair from the desk and sitting on it backward. "Start at the beginning." The memory was a fresh wound she didn't want to touch, but his gaze was relentless. "He came into the diner where I worked, sat in my section 3 days in a row before he spoke, and what did he say? He asked if I knew who he was. I said no, I think he liked that." Elena remembered every single detail with perfect clarity. She clocked a deep loneliness in Adrian, something his fancy suits and slick smile couldn't cover up. He dropped his name, offered to take her out. She shut him down, figuring he was just another rich dude looking for a new toy. But the next day, he's back with flowers, asking again. And you caved. Not right away, she shot back. But he was surprisingly gentle and he didn't quit. He never made me feel trapped. Elena felt a knot form in her throat. I finally said yes to one meal. That turned into two. After the third, he dropped the bomb about his family. Marcus's expression was pure granite. And you? I tried to bounce. Told him I wanted zero part of that life. Elena let out a harsh laugh. He swore he got it, that he wanted out too. Said he was building a clean slate. And what exactly was that? Legit stuff. Real estate, tech startups, things that didn't involve. She waved her hand. Crime. Marcus finished for her, his voice dead flat. Right. And you bought it. I needed to buy it. Elena's gaze locked with his. My father was gone. The people who took him were hunting me. I had nothing. When Adrian offered marriage and safety, I grabbed it. The only other option was a bullet in some dark alley. Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. Maybe he understood, or maybe he just recognized the smell of pure desperation. Did Adrian ever mention threats? Anyone leaning on him? Elena scanned her memory of their few talks. No, but like I said, his work was a black box. He kept that life totally separate. What about the week before the ceremony? Anything weird? He was wired tight. I just figured it was wedding nerves, but... Elena's mind snagged on a memory. The night before, he came to my room, said he had to tell me something huge. Marcus leaned forward, all attention. What was it? He never got it out. His phone rang. He had to bolt. He promised we'd talk after. Her voice dropped to a hush. We never got the chance. Marcus shot up, starting to pace again. Someone knew that hit was scheduled. They either kept their mouth shut or warned him, and he blew it off. Why would he ignore a warning? To prove he was right, Marcus spat, his voice thick with old baggage. Adrian actually believed in redemption, that talking things out was better than violence. He thought he could turn the whole family into a legit corporation. That sounds honorable. It sounds stupid, Marcus snapped back, freezing to glare out the window. This world doesn't reward honor. It rewards power, fear, and the guts to do what no one else will. Adrian knew the rules, but he chose to hope for better. That's what got him killed. A heavy silence filled the space. Thick with the grief Marcus refused to show and the rage he could barely contain. I didn't know him that well, Elena said softly, but he was kind to me. That has to count for something. It counts for nothing when you're in a coffin. His reflection was a pale ghost in the glass. Kindness is a price we can't pay. So what can you pay for? He turned, and the look he gave her stole her breath. Survival, control, and making damn sure my brother's killers don't have long to celebrate. You're going to hunt them down. I'm going to tear their whole world down and poison the dirt it stood on. His voice was so calm it was terrifying, making the vow sound like a prophecy. Anyone who helped them, who knew and did nothing, who profited from Adrian's murder, they're all going up in flames. Elena should have been disgusted by that ice-cold brutality. Instead, a grim part of her was glad someone would finally make them pay. How much time will that take? She asked. As long as it takes. Marcus started for the door. Until then, you don't move. You stay hidden, and you stay the hell out of my way. Wait. Elena got to her feet. You can't just lock me in here. I can. Marcus. He spun on her so fast she physically recoiled. Do you have any clue what they'll do to you? The men who murdered Adrian, the sharks circling his turf, even our own people who think you're a loose end." His voice became a lethal whisper. "They will use you, Elena. They'll break you for intel, trade you like a commodity, or kill you just to send a message. The only reason you're still breathing is because I have you somewhere they can't touch." "So I'm your prisoner for my own good." "Exactly. That's not living. That's just dying slowly." Marcus's jaw clenched. "You want to try the fast way?" The threat hung between them, sharp as a knife. Elena met his stare, refusing to back down. "I'd prefer to have a say in it," she stated, her voice quiet but firm. For a long, tense moment, Marcus just glared. Then he walked to the door. "You don't get a say anymore. The faster you get that, the easier this will be." He was gone, and the click of the lock was the sound of a cage door slamming shut. Elena was left alone in the room, her hands trembling with helpless fury. All day she had played the part of the grieving widow, standing next to Marcus and Vincent as snakes offered fake condolences. But it wasn't sadness crushing her. It was the weight of this damn cage, the fact that she'd just swapped one death sentence for another. She wasn't going to do this. She couldn't just waste away in this room, letting Marcus run her life. Elena went to the window, placing her hand against the cold glass. Beyond it, the estate was swallowed by darkness. Freedom was right there, past the locked windows and armed guards, and the man who literally owned her life. But it was there. She just had to figure out how to grab it. The next morning, a guard delivered her breakfast wrapped in a newspaper. Elena almost tossed it. Why should she care about the outside world? But she was bored out of her mind, so she started to read. The headline made her blood run cold. "Varley Wedding Massacre Leaves 12 Dead. Rival Family Suspected." Below the text was a shot of the estate, crawling with paramedics and cop cars. A smaller photo showed Adrian at some charity event, smiling like he didn't have a single problem. Elena scanned the article twice. It was all rumors and careful wording. The cops were looking into it. No one was arrested. The Varley family wasn't talking. But then a line, buried in the middle, made her gasp. "Sources suggest the attack was an inside job, raising questions of loyalty within the organization." So Marcus hadn't been paranoid. There was a traitor in their ranks. And that person was still walking free, a ticking time bomb. Elena dropped the paper and stared at the locked door. Marcus was out hunting monsters while she was being stored like a fragile doll. But what if she stopped being useless? What if she could make herself so critical that he'd have no choice but to let her out? The plan was nuts, probably a suicide mission, but it beat the hell out of going crazy in this room. She started watching everything. Guard schedules, the noises that built a map of the house in her head, bits of conversation from the hallway. On her 5th day as a captive, the lock turned at the wrong time, the middle of the afternoon. Elena looked up from the book she was pretending to read. Marcus was framed in the doorway, and he looked like he'd just clawed his way out of hell. His shirt was soaked through with dark, wet blood. His knuckles were raw and swollen. A fresh gash was carved along his collarbone, and one of his eyes was already puffing shut. He staggered into the room and kicked the door closed behind him. "My God," Elena whispered, "what happened to you?" "Nothing," Marcus rasped out. He took 3 steps before his legs buckled and he slammed hard against the dresser. Without a second thought, Elena was across the room, grabbing his arm to stop him from collapsing. "He needs a hospital. No hospitals?" He shook her off, tried to stand, and wobbled. Just give me a second. You need stitches. You're losing way too much blood. I said I'm fine. You're the opposite of fine. Elena snatched a shirt from a drawer, jamming it against the cut on his collarbone. Hold this. Marcus dead, his hand grazing hers before she pulled back. His skin was on fire. How much blood had he lost? Where's the first aid kit? Elena demanded. Bathroom, under the sink. She found it immediately. The kit was so well equipped, it suggested this wasn't the first time this room had seen this kind of violence. She grabbed it and returned to find Marcus slumped against the bed, his eyes squeezed shut. Stay with me, she ordered, trying. Elena knelt next to him, gently pulling back the shirt, which was now dyed completely red. The wound was deep, clean, knife work. It needed a real surgeon, but she could at least close it up, stop an infection. This is going to burn, she warned. Everything does. Marcus cracked open one eye to watch her. Just get it done. She began cleaning the wound with a steady hand, refusing to react when he hissed. The muscles under her touch were like iron, his whole body one massive, silent scream. You should be in an ER, she murmured. Can't. Too many eyes. His breathing was getting shallow. Hospitals mean cops. Cops mean problems. Sepsis will kill you. Wouldn't be the first chance I've taken. Elena started stitching, her hands more stable than she felt. Her father had taught her this. A ghost from a life she tried to forget. Some lessons apparently you never lose. Who did this to you? Her voice was steady, almost detached. Anything to keep him awake. The ones who took Adrian. Marcus's voice was getting thick. Found their spot. They weren't exactly happy I dropped by. How many? 5, then 4. And just like that, you took them out. Most of them. Elena tied off the last stitch before cleaning his scraped knuckles. You're unhinged. Probably. He just watched her, his face a total stone wall. You're pretty good at this. My old man taught me, said in his line of work, knowing how to patch a guy up was a hell of an asset. Elena's hands just stopped. I only found out yesterday his business was the same as yours. Would that have changed anything? She gave it a brutally honest thought. No. I still would have gone with Adrian. I still would have taken the safety he offered, even knowing there was a price. I just never guessed the cost was his life. Elena finished his hands and pulled back. Take off your shirt? Marcus just arched an eyebrow. You're bleeding everywhere, and I have to check for other cuts, Elena stated. Totally deadpan. Lose it, or I'll just let you bleed out. He fought his way out of the shredded shirt, every move looking like agony. Elena had to look away from the roadmap of scars all over his chest, some old and faded, others brand new. A whole life of violence written on his skin. She found 2 more gashes, both shallow, and dealt with them fast. Her hands were starting to shake now, the adrenaline wearing off and leaving her completely drained. As she finished, Marcus grabbed her wrist. Thanks. Elena met his gaze. You would have handled it yourself if I wasn't here. Yeah, but it would have hurt a lot more. They stayed like that for a long moment, his hand warm on her wrist, his blood on her skin. The room suddenly felt way too small, the air getting thick. Then Marcus let go and hauled himself to his feet. He made it this time, but he was swaying. You should get some rest, Elena told him. Can't. There's work to do. You can barely even stand up. I've operated on way worse. But he didn't head for the door. He just stood there, staring at her with that same unreadable look from the funeral. What? Elena snapped. You could have just let me die. It would have solved your problem. The idea hadn't even occurred to her. What problem? Me. I'm the reason you're stuck in this place. If I was gone, you could bargain for your freedom with Vincent or someone else. Elena stood facing him in the night space. You think I'd watch you die for a chance to escape? Most people would. I'm not most people. Something in his hard expression just cracked. No, you're not. He left without saying anything else, leaving Elena alone again with bloody hands and a ton of questions. Why come to her room when he was that messed up? He's got to have medics, right? Yet he stumbled into her cage, and why did some small part of her feel relieved that she could help? Elena washed her hands, trying to scrub the answer away. Marcus didn't show for 3 days. Elena tracked the time by meal deliveries, the changing light, and footsteps in the hall that were never his. She kept telling herself it was just boredom, looking for anything to break the monotony. But every click of the lock made her heart race with something that felt way too much like anticipation. On the third night, shattering glass woke her up. Elena shot straight up in bed, her heart hammering. The sound was coming from the gardens below. She slid to the wall, listening. Voices, sharp and angry. Then gunfire, quick, brutal bursts that ripped the night apart. She'd heard enough gunfights to know this wasn't fake. This was happening right now. It was close enough to smell the bitter scent of gunpowder creeping through the window. The door flew open. A guard she'd never seen before seized her arm. Move. Now. What is going on? Move. He yanked her out of bed, not caring that she was only in a t-shirt and underwear. His grip was bruising as he dragged her into the hallway. More armed guards were rushing past them. Orders were being screamed from downstairs. Elena's bare feet slapped on the marble as the man pulled her down a hall she didn't recognize, deeper into the mansion. They stopped at a heavy steel door that looked like it belonged on a bank vault. The guard punched in a code and shoved Elena inside. Stay here. Do not open this for anyone but me or Marcus Varley. You get that? Elena gave a quick, silent nod. The door slammed shut, its locks clanking into place with a heavy finality. She was in a panic room. No windows, reinforced walls, a single light throwing stark shadows. There was a cot, a table with supplies, and a phone on the wall. Elena picked up the receiver. Dead, of course. More gunfire erupted, way closer this time. She could hear it right through the thick walls, the crack of rifles, the boom of shotguns, men yelling commands and curses. The whole estate was under attack, and she was trapped in a box, completely blind to how it would end. Time warped and stretched. The battle hit its peak, then slowly faded out. Silence fell, broken only by her own shaky breathing. Elena sat on the cot and waited. She had no clue how much time had passed when the locks finally clicked open. The door opened and Marcus stood there, shirt torn and blood splattered, a rifle hanging off his shoulder. "You're safe," he stated. It wasn't a question. Elena staggered to her feet. "What happened?" Chen made his play. Marcus's voice was flat with exhaustion. He figured he could use the chaos after Adrian's death. He sent his guys in to take the estate. And did they? They're dead. All of them. He stepped back. Let's go. This room is secure, but I want you where I can see you. Elena followed him through corridors where bodies were sprawled across the floor. Chen's crew, she figured, their blood soaking into the expensive rugs. She stepped over them, her mind too numb to process the scene. Marcus took her to a different room, much larger than her cell. It was an office. A huge desk, massive bookshelves, leather chairs. One whole wall was bulletproof glass, looking out over grounds where fires were still smoldering. "Whose office is this?" Elena asked. "Mine." Marcus locked the door and set the rifle against the wall. "Sit down before you pass out." She hadn't even realized she was swaying. Elena collapsed into a leather chair, her legs just giving up. How many casualties? 12 of his, 3 of ours. Marcus went to a cabinet and poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. He pressed one into Elena's hand. "Drink." She did, and the whiskey burned all the way down. "Is it over?" "For tonight." Marcus threw back his glass and poured another. "Chen's dead. I put the bullet in his skull myself, but he won't be the last. Adrian's death exposed us, and the whole world knows it. How long can you keep fighting like this?" "For as long as I have to." But his voice was tired, a deep-down exhaustion that had nothing to do with tonight's fight. He stood by the windows, watching the flames, his shoulders tense. Elena watched him in the low light. Blood and soot smeared his face. His knuckles were raw, and he was favoring the side where her stitches were probably stretched to their limit. "You need a doctor," she said. "Later." "Marcus," I said. "Later." He turned from the window, and the look in his eyes shut her up. Not anger, something raw and desperate. "I need to think. I need to know who's next, how to secure our position, where the next attack will come from. You need to sleep." "I'll sleep when I'm dead." A sharp, brittle laugh escaped him, a sound that screamed he wouldn't last long at this rate. Elena set her glass down. "Sit down. Just sit." She used the same tone he'd used on her 100 times, and was shocked when he just did it, dropping into the chair, like his strings were cut. This close, she saw the brutal damage the last week had done. The dark circles under his eyes were practically bruises. His face was thinner, sharpened down to an edge. He was a guy running on nothing but fury and willpower. "When did you last eat?" Elena asked gently. Marcus looked like he had to dig for the answer. "Yesterday, I think, and sleep, a few hours here and there. You can't survive like this. I don't have a choice." His voice was a broken thing. "Every second I'm not working, I'm just giving our enemies more time to plan their next move. Every moment of rest is another chance for a knife to hit my back. And if you fall apart from the stress, what then? Who keeps this whole world from collapsing?" Marcus buried his face in his hands. "You have no idea how any of this works? Then make me understand." He held her gaze for a long moment, and she saw something settle in his eyes. "A decision being made. This family is held up by 2 things, fear and respect, in equal parts. My father took 40 years to build that. Adrian was meant to be the future, the polished front man to make us look legit while I took care of the nasty stuff. With him gone, a void was left. Every rival crew, every hungry underboss, and every punk with a gun can sense it. You have to show the strength to fill that void now. And I have to prove I'm so feared that no one would dare try." Marcus slumped in his chair. "It means I can't afford to look weak, not for a second. I have to be the exact monster they whisper about." Elena pictured the bodies in the hall, the blood on his hands, the cold way he talked about killing Chen. "You're not a monster. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I know you came to my room when you were wounded. Not to your own men, model. And check this out." She calls him on his BS, saying he could have offed her ages ago but didn't. She sees he's running on fumes, holding this whole crumbling empire together while grieving. Then she drops the mic. "That's not what monsters do." Marcus lets out this hollow laugh like, "You're so naive." But she fires back, "I'm a realist. Monsters don't feel guilty. You do." He's like, "How would you know?" So she lays out the facts. He never sleeps. He's destroying himself to be their shield, and he's torn up over seeing her as a person or a liability. She gets right in his face, saying a real monster wouldn't give a damn. The air gets so thick you could cut it with a knife. For the first time, Marcus actually sees her, not just a variable in his gangster calculus. He mutters that Adrian was right about her inner steel. Elena's like, "Had to be. The weak get eaten alive in my world too." When he asks what her life was like before all this, it's a total first. Nobody, not Adrian, not anyone, had ever bothered to ask. They were all too busy using her or protecting her to care who she was before the Varelli brand got slapped on her. "Poor," she says flat out. "My dad worked himself to the bone just to keep us fed and sheltered. After my mom bounced, it was just the two of us. He taught me how to handle myself, spot danger, patch up a wound, and disappear. I thought the guy was just paranoid. Turns out he was training me for the very life he was trying to escape." "You hate him for it?" Marcus asks. Elena thinks it over. "Some days, yeah, but mostly I just miss him. He was a messed up guy, trying to save her the only way he knew how, by serving the Varellis, by doing whatever it took to keep her alive." She pauses, then twists the knife. "Just like you are now." Marcus flinches like he's been slapped. He argues it's different, but she shuts him down. He's also sacrificing his soul to protect his family. She pushes, "How is that any different?" He claims this life was his choice, not hers or Adrian's. She's not having it. "Wasn't it? He was born into this, same as you." Marcus's face is a storm of sadness, rage, and something that looks like regret. She drops another bomb. Adrian once told her he wished he could have been someone else, someone who did more than just prop up a dynasty built on fear. "When did he say this?" Marcus demands. "Our second dinner," she says. "The wine made him talk." The memory stings. He said the only good part of being a Varelli was the power to actually help people, to maybe balance out all the bad. Marcus explodes to his feet, pacing to the window. "He was a dreamer. It got him killed." Elena retorts, "Or a traitor killed him, and his dreams had nothing to do with it." But Marcus insists his brother's idealism made him trust the wrong people, that he ignored a threat until it was too late. Marcus sees his own haunted face in the dark glass. He claims Adrian wanted to see the good in everyone, which is why he's dead. And you see threats everywhere. "Because they are everywhere," he shoots back. He rattles off his resume. He's kept the family afloat through 3 power grabs, 2 Fed investigations, and countless hits. Adrian's way led to a coffin. My way keeps our people alive. It also leaves you alone, exhausted, and one bad day from snapping, she counters. That does it. In 3 steps, Marcus is on her, yanking her out of the chair. Elena doesn't even flinch, just meets his bruising grip and furious stare. "You want the truth?" His voice is a raw wire. "I am one bad day from burning this whole kingdom down. I'm one weak moment from ending it all because this is too damn heavy." He's holding on by a thread, and the only thing stopping him is knowing everyone who depends on him goes down too. "Then let me help you carry it." "There's no one," he says. "I'm here." The words just spill out of her. "I'm not asking for your trust, but you shouldn't be going through this alone." Marcus just stares, his grip still crushing her shoulders, his breathing ragged. "Why would you help me?" I've held you captive, treated you like property, given you every reason to hate my guts. Because, she says, you also protected me. I saw you mourn your brother when you acted like you felt nothing. I saw the pain you hide under all that armor. Elena gently touches his scarred jaw. Because I know what it feels like to be drowning. For a second, Marcus is frozen, her hand on his face, his eyes searching hers for the usual lies and schemes. And then, something inside him just shatters. His kiss isn't gentle. It's a desperate, violent crash. His hands fist in her hair, anchoring her to him like he's terrified she'll vanish. And Elena should be fighting him. She should feel disgusted. But instead, she's kissing him back with the same wild desperation. It's a beautiful, chaotic, 5-alarm fire of a mistake. This is her dead husband's brother, her captor, a man with blood on his hands. But right then, who cares? All she wants is contact, proof that she's still alive. Marcus breaks away first, breathing hard, forehead pressed against hers. This is wrong. We can't. I know. But neither of them moves an inch. They just stand there in the dark office as the world outside burns and something between them changes forever. I never hated you, Marcus whispers. At the wedding. You thought I hated you. I didn't. Elena's heart is trying to beat its way out of her chest. Then what did you feel? I wanted you. The confession is raw, torn from his soul. I was watching you for weeks before Adrian even knew you existed. I followed you from that diner, telling myself it was surveillance, but I knew the truth. This should have been terrifying. Instead, it makes a terrible kind of sense. Why not approach me then? Because Adrian saw you first. He claimed you like a prize. Marcus's laugh is pure acid. Because I knew if I got close, I'd have to keep you. And need is weakness. So I let Adrian have you and pretended it was fine. But it wasn't. No, he admits. I stood there watching him marry you, and I imagined killing him to take his place. His grip on her hair tightens. And then someone else did the job for me, and my darkest wish came true in the worst way possible. Elena leans back to see his face. Is that why you kept me here? To keep away from me? To keep you safe? To stop myself from doing this? To figure out if you were just an obsession or something much worse? He lets her go, stepping back like there's now a canyon between them. Turns out it's worse. What is? Marcus turns away, his body rigid. I don't have room for this. For wanting you, for caring. All of it is a liability. He explains that everyone he cares about becomes a target. Adrian is dead because an enemy knew it would break him. If they ever found out she was more than a prisoner, they would go after her. They would make him watch as they broke her, piece by piece, before killing her just to prove a point. His voice is frayed with pure terror. I will not let that happen. Elena's mind is reeling from his confession storm. So Marcus wanted her, stalked her, and isolated her, to protect them both. And he just kissed her like he was dying of thirst. So what now? She asks quietly. Nothing. This doesn't happen again. Marcus puts his ice-cold mask back on. You go to your room. I go back to work. We forget this ever happened. Just like that? Yes. Just like that. Elena lets out a sharp, bitter laugh. Do you really think you can just flip a switch? Pretend this isn't real? I've been pretending since I first laid eyes on you, he says coldly. I can keep going. He heads for the door. Come on, I'm taking you back. But Elena doesn't move. What if I don't want to pretend anymore? Marcus's hand freezes on the doorknob. Pretend what? That I felt nothing when you kissed me? That you're not the first person in months who's seen me as a human being? Don't make this harder than it is, he says, not looking at her. You think you want this, but you don't. I'm not Adrian. I don't have his kindness. I'm the monster that keeps the other monsters in line, and getting close to me will only destroy you. I'm already destroyed, she says. Your brother died in my arms. I'm a prisoner here. My old life is gone. What else could you possibly take from me? Your hope. Marcus finally faced her, the agony in his eyes hitting her like a gut punch. That's what I'm taking. The part of you that still believes in a happy ending, I'm going to ruin it, twist it, until you're as broken and dark as me. And you'll hate my guts for it. You don't know that. Oh, I do. It's who I am. It's how this life works. He threw the door open. Now let's go before I change my mind. Elena walked to the door, but stopped right at the edge. You're wrong. About what? Thinking you're a monster? Real monsters don't protect people from themselves. She bolted into the hall before he could even think of a comeback. Marcus followed her in dead silence, leaving a huge gap between them as the weight of their conversation crushed the air. At her room, Marcus unlocked the door but didn't go in. He just stood there in the doorway, totally at a loss for words. Try to get some rest, Elena whispered. I'll try, Marcus. She turned back to him. Thanks for saving my life tonight. Surprise flashed across his face, like he was expecting her to scream at him, not thank him. It's my job. No, your job is this entire empire. Keeping me alive? That was your call. She held his stare. And I appreciate you for making it. He gave one quick, sharp nod, then shut the door. The lock clicked, and she was alone again. But something had changed. Her prison cell felt a little bigger, the silence less lonely, because she finally understood she wasn't the only one trapped here. Marcus was just as stuck as she was, maybe more, chained by duty to a kingdom that took everything and gave back nothing. Elena laid on the bed, staring into nothing. His touch still lingered on her lips. His confession was on a loop in her head. She should have been terrified by all of it, the violence, his twisted obsession, the insane fate that brought them here. Yet all she felt was a weird, electric buzz about what could happen next. The next morning was a total reset. A new guard unlocked her door. This wasn't the usual quiet meal drop-off, but a straight-up summons. Mr. Vincent Varley wants to see you in his office. A cold rock formed in Elena's stomach. Right now. Right now. She put on the blandest clothes she had and followed the guard. It was the first time she'd seen the attack's aftermath in the daylight. Bullet holes peppered the walls. Faint bloodstains remained on the marble no matter how hard they scrubbed. The shiny veneer of the Varley Empire was starting to crack. Vincent's office was in the oldest part of the mansion, full of dark wood, old leather, and the smell of expensive cigars. The patriarch sat behind a massive desk, with Marcus standing next to him like a stone gargoyle. Marcus didn't even acknowledge her. His face was a complete blank, and Elena's hopes just plummeted. So they were back to pretending. Sit, Elena, Vincent said, his voice a low grumble, but not mean. She sat in the chair across from him, clenching her hands so they'd stop shaking. Vincent just watched her for a long moment, his old eyes sharp as daggers. My son tells me you handled yourself pretty well last night. You followed orders and didn't lose your cool. I was terrified, Elena admitted. But you didn't let fear take over. That's the important part. He leaned back in his chair. You've been our guest for almost 2 weeks. Long enough to get how we operate. Long enough to make a choice. What kind of choice? Whether you're useful to this family or a problem we have to get rid of. Vincent said it so casually, like he was talking about the weather, not her potential execution. Marcus says you're valuable, that your connection to Adrian is an advantage. Others think you're a liability who will destroy us. Elena's throat went dry. What's your take? I think you're way sharper than you let on. I think you've been watching, learning how to survive in a world that should have eaten you alive by now. Vincent slid a folder toward her, which is why this choice is yours. Elena opened it, her hands trembling. Inside was a bunch of legal documents and financial reports, a language she barely understood. Adrian left you everything, Vincent explained. His piece of our companies, his properties, all his assets. Legally, you're now one of the richest widows in the nation. Elena's head shot up. I don't get it. It's real simple. You can grab this fortune and disappear. We'll set you up with a new identity, a safe place, and you'll never hear from us again. Vincent's expression was unreadable. Or you can stay. Take this inheritance, take your spot in this family, and help us fix the mess Adrian's death created. Why would you want me to stay? Because you're still Adrian's widow. That name means something to the old school families, our allies. They respect mourning. They respect the bonds of marriage, even after death. Vincent glanced at Marcus, then back at her. And because my son thinks you're more than good enough to play the grieving wife. Elena's heart was hammering. Marcus still wouldn't look at her, his jaw tight, hands locked behind his back. Was this his plan or his dad's? If I stay, Elena started slowly. What would I do? It means you become a working part of this whole operation. You'll learn the business, represent the family, and help run our legitimate companies. It means you stop being a prisoner and become an asset. Vincent's eyes got sharper. But it also means you're tied to us. No second thoughts. No running away when things get rough. Once you're family for life. There are no escape hatches. Elena stared at the papers. Freedom was right there, printed and signed. Money, safety, a new life, far away from all this violence and darkness. But freedom to do what? Go back to a life of constantly looking over her shoulder. She had no one left, no real friends, no safety net. The protection Adrian gave her was the only reason she was still alive. And if she was being honest, a part of her had zero desire to leave. Zero desire to ditch the intense, weird bond she'd built with Marcus. Zero desire to give up the first place she felt like she could have real power instead of just being a chess piece. How long do I have? She asked. 2 hours. Vincent stood up, ending the meeting. Think it over, Elena. You can't undo this choice. The guard led her back to her room, where Elena just stared at the papers, her mind a chaotic mess of what-ifs. She could bail, take the money, and vanish into a quiet, safe existence. Or she could stay, claim a throne in this savage kingdom, and stand with the man who admitted his own darkness while fighting for his brother's honor. Freedom or power, safety or purpose, flight or fight. When Marcus came into her room that night, her mind was already made up. He didn't bother knocking, just used his key like he owned the place. Elena sat on the bed, the papers laid out in front of her, and watched him close the door. Marcus looked even more beat than last night. His eyes were red, his body tense with pain he was trying to hide. He had on clean clothes, but you could still see a speck of blood under his nails. Have you made your choice? He asked, his voice flat. Elena scooped up the papers and held them out. I'm staying. Marcus glared at the documents like they were actual poison. You should take the money and leave. I'm done leaving. Elena, I am staying, she repeated, her voice firmer this time. I am claiming Adrian's legacy and my place in this family. I am done being locked up and treated like a problem. Marcus took the papers and tossed them on the dresser. Do you get what this means? This isn't a contract you can just break when it gets hard. You are literally swearing your life to this family. I did that the day I married Adrian. Elena stood up to look him in the eye. The only difference now is that I'm choosing this destiny. You're choosing to paint a target on your back. You're choosing to wake up every morning knowing a bullet could be coming for you. I'm choosing power over weakness. She moved in closer. Last night, you asked what more you could take from me. Now, I'm taking something for myself. Control, agency, the right to decide how I go out instead of letting other men decide for me. Something in Marcus's expression changed. Maybe it was respect or just deep-seated worry. You think this prison gives you more control than running away ever would. Outside, I'm hunted, alone, a target. Here, I'm a Varelli. The name is a weapon, one I'm going to learn to use, or one that will get you killed. Everything's a death sentence in the end. Elena held his gaze. This way, at least, I die fighting, not hiding. Marcus went silent, his eyes scanning her face for any weakness, any lie, any breaking point. You are absolutely sure about this? Then you need to learn the code. He walked over to the window, putting distance between them like her being close was messing with his focus. You're not Adriana's widow anymore. You are an asset to this family. That puts you under Vincent, under me, under our entire command structure. You will follow every order the second it's given. You will never question a command in front of others. You won't make decisions that affect this family without permission. And you will never, ever betray us. Because if you do, I'll kill you myself. That promise should have scared her. Instead, it was the most real thing he'd said to her all day. I understand, Elena said. You'll be assigned legitimate business duties. Adrian was building a real estate portfolio. You're taking it over. Learn the buildings, the tenants, the cash flow. Keep it looking perfect on the surface while managing the garbage underneath. The corner of Marcus's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Exactly. And where will I live? You'll be moved to the family compound. A real room, not a cage, but it'll be guarded. You're forbidden to leave without clearance and an escort until this blows over. So, I'm still a prisoner, just in a fancier cell. Think of it as protective custody, Marcus shot back, turning from the window. There's something else. The kiss. It was a mistake. You said it was complicated. He dragged a hand down his face. I meant what I said about watching you, about wanting you. That feeling doesn't just disappear because it's a problem. Elena's heart started hammering. What are you trying to say? I'm saying we need boundaries. You're family now, which makes this even more off limits than it already was. Vincent can never know. Nobody can. If they smell a connection between us, you become a weak spot they can use against me. So we act like it never happened. We go on like nothing's going on. Marcus's eyes burned right through her. Because it can't. Not while you're under my protection. Not with this family about to implode. Not while every enemy we have is hunting for a crack in the armor. Elena closed the distance between them until they were inches apart. And when the chaos stops, When the enemies are gone? What then? Marcus's jaw locked up. We'll see what happens then. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. His hand lifted, like he was going to touch her, then fell. I can't promise you anything except that you'll survive. Everything else is up in the air. I'm not asking for promises. Elena reached out, pressing his hand against her skin just like she did before. I'm asking for the truth. Do you want me here? Marcus sucked in a sharp breath. His thumb traced her jawline, and in his eyes, Elena saw the war he was fighting. Duty versus desire, logic versus instinct. The killer he was built to be versus the man he was. Yes, he finally breathed out, the words sounding like a confession he was forced to make. I want you to stay, even though I know I shouldn't, even though it's selfish and reckless and will probably destroy us both. Elena tilted her head, brushing a kiss against his palm. Then I'm staying. Marcus slammed her against him, the force of it knocking the wind out of her, his arms like a vice as he buried his face in her hair. They stood like that for a long, tense moment. Two people trapped in an impossible situation, clinging to the only real thing in their insane world. Then he jerked back, his face a mess of conflict. Pack whatever you want to bring. You're moving to your new room at dawn. And you? I'll be working. I'm always working. He started for the door, then stopped. Elena, this doesn't change anything. We're still impossible. I know. And she did. She knew exactly what kind of trap they were in. But knowing didn't make it hurt any less. I'll see you in the morning. He left without a second look, leaving Elena alone with the consequences of her choice. The new room was 3 times the size of her cell, with windows that opened and a bathroom that wasn't a concrete box. Her tiny collection of belongings was already there, looking totally pathetic next to the fancy furniture. Maria, the same older woman who dressed her for the wedding, stood at the door. Miss Elena, my name is Maria. I'm here to help you. Help me with what? Anything you need. Your clothes, your schedule, learning how this place works. Maria's expression was kind but cagey. Mr. Vincent wants you to be comfortable. Elena almost laughed out loud. Comfortable. In a house where one side wanted her dead and the other saw her as a pawn in their game. I need clothes, she said, ignoring the joke. Proper clothes, not gowns, something I can actually work in. Of course, a tailor will be here for you tomorrow. Maria paused. If I may say so, miss, it's good to see you out of that room. Mr. Adrian would have wanted you to have some freedom. His name hit Elena like a punch to the gut. She'd been so focused on surviving Marcus, she'd nearly forgotten the man who kicked this whole thing off. You knew him well? Elena asked. I've served this family for 30 years. I watched both boys grow into men. Maria's eyes got a faraway look. Mr. Adrian was the soft one. He always looked for the good in people, even when there was none. Mr. Marcus was made of something harder, but his love for his brother was absolute. He has a weird way of showing it. Mr. Marcus can't show his feelings. His father trained him to be strong, to see emotion as a weakness. Feelings are a liability in this world. Maria pulled back the curtains, letting the sun pour in. But I see how he looks at you. It's the same look he had for things he wanted desperately but thought he could never have. Elena's breath caught in her throat. What are you trying to say? Nothing at all, miss. Just an old woman rambling. Maria gave her a tiny, knowing smile. Dinner is at 7. You're to join them in the formal dining hall. I'll come back for you." After she left, Elena checked out her new cage. The walk-in closet was a massive, empty cave, waiting to be filled. The bathtub was big enough for two. The bed was huge, covered in silks that probably cost more than her old yearly salary. This was her life now. A mix of luxury and danger, so twisted together she couldn't tell them apart anymore. Dinner was a master class in quiet warfare. The dining hall could fit 30, but there were only 5 place settings. Vincent sat at the head, with Marcus on his right and Elena on his left. 2 guys she'd never seen before sat across from them. "Elena, meet James Caruso and Michael Romano." Vincent made the intros. "They handle our money and our legal businesses." The men gave her blank looks, their eyes scanning her, judging her worth, deciding if she was an enemy or a tool. "Gentlemen," Elena muttered. Servants floated around them, serving the first course without a sound. The silence was so heavy you could feel it, broken only by silverware scraping on plates. Finally, Vincent cleared his throat. "Elena has agreed to claim her inheritance by managing Adrian's real estate ventures." "A smart move?" Caruso asked, his voice dead, but his eyes sharp, "given how unstable things are." "It's a necessary one," Marcus cut in before Vincent could reply. "We need stability, especially in our public businesses. Elena is Adrian's only heir. The properties are hers anyway. Better she runs them than lets them rot." "What experience does she have in property development?" Romano's question was borderline disrespectful. Elena put her fork down slowly. "None." "Which is why I'll learn. I thought that was the point of having accountants and lawyers, to help the rest of us who don't know." Romano's eyebrow shot up. A real smile actually touched Vincent's lips. "She's got a point," Vincent said. "Adrian knew nothing about real estate when he started. He learned. She will too." "With all due respect, sir, Adrian was blood." "She's blood now too," Marcus sliced in, his voice cold enough to drop the room temperature. "She is a Virelli. This conversation is over." Romano shut his mouth, but you could see he was pissed. The dinner went on with business talk Elena couldn't follow yet. She just listened, trying to piece together the life Adrian lived. When it was over, Marcus stopped her with a hand on her arm. "My office, in 10 minutes. He was gone before she could say a word. Elena found her way to his study, the same room where he'd first kissed her, where the city burned outside as they blew up the space between them. It felt different now, less like a war zone and more like an office. Marcus was there, waiting, his desk buried in paperwork, a glass of whiskey nearby. He didn't look up. "Shut the door," Elena did, and the soft click of the lock sounded final. Marcus finally looked at her. "Caruso and Romano don't trust you. They think you're a gold digger who seduced Adrian and now you're trying to worm your way into the family. Are they wrong about the seduction part?" "Yes." "Your motive?" He just shrugged it off. "Who cares? They're gonna fight you on everything, question every decision, every move you make. They'll be watching, trying to make you look like a failure, so Vincent will kick you to the curb." "So what's the game plan?" "Stay one step ahead. Be smarter. Do not let these guys break you." Marcus took a sip of his drink. "And trust no one, just Vincent and me. Anyone else in this joint would sell you for a handful of change." Elena walked up to his desk. "Including you. To keep this family alive, I'd trade you in a second." Their eyes locked. "But it would tear a piece out of me if that makes you feel any better." "It doesn't." "Yeah, I didn't think it would." Marcus slid a thick folder across the desk. Adrienne's entire portfolio. 12 properties citywide, apartments, shops, even a hotel, all of it clocking in around 40 million. He tapped the cover. Income, expenses, tenants, it's all in there. You've got 7 days to learn it and pitch a new strategy to Vincent. Her hands were literally shaking as she picked it up. 7 days. This is the family business. There are no second chances. He poured a second glass and offered it to her. You're gonna want this. She took it, collapsing into the chair across from him. The burn of the whiskey was a welcome change from the terror squeezing her chest. A $40 million empire dropped in her lap. 7 days to tame it. Surrounded by dudes just waiting for her to crash and burn. And then there's Marcus, whose expression gives away nothing. I don't think I can pull this off, she admitted. You can, he shot back, or you'd already be gone. He leaned back, cold as ice. Fear means you're smart. Anger is a weapon. Use it. Let Caruso and Romano find out what happens when they underestimate you. How? Be better than they ever imagined. Out-hustle them. Prove you're not just Adrian's sad widow. You're a Varley, and that name means something. He paused. And find me when you're trapped. I won't hold your hand, but I'll give you the facts. She stared at the file. A 7-day death sentence. Prove you belong or get kicked to the curb. She'd survived way worse. Fine, she breathed. I'm in. I knew you would be. For a split second, his face softened. You should get out of here. It's late, and your timer just started. Elena stood up but paused. Marcus, thank you. For what? For believing in me, even if you won't say it. A flicker of something crossed his face. If I didn't, I'd have told Vincent to just buy you out. Now go, before I change my mind about keeping my distance. She was out the door before he could see his confession land. The next 5 days were absolute hell. Elena totally forgot what sleep was, buried in contracts and financial reports until the text just blurred together. Maria brought food that went cold, endless coffee she chugged down, and worried looks Elena totally ignored. She found out Adrian was way sharper than anyone gave him credit for. His properties were perfectly placed in areas about to blow up. The hotel was a literal money-printing machine. His commercial spaces were the perfect front for cleaning cash, all totally legal-looking. But there were cracks. Some tenant in an apartment building was starting a revolt over rent. A commercial property had a busted foundation that would cost a fortune to fix. The hotel was hemorrhaging cash thanks to bad management. Elena was taking notes, drawing up plans, and building financial projections her dad would have been proud of. Slowly but surely, a killer strategy was taking shape. Marcus just appeared in her room on the 6th day. No knock, nothing. She looked up from her laptop, her eyes completely fried from staring at spreadsheets. You look like crap, he said. Thanks. You're not exactly looking your best either. And it was true. He had dark circles under his eyes and moved like every step hurt. He collapsed into a chair across from her setup. Show me. Elena just turned the screen and walked him through everything. Marcus took it all in without a word, his face totally unreadable. The silence after she finished was heavy enough to crush a car. Well? Elena finally asked. The apartment building, he started. You're gonna talk to the ringleader, not evict them. That's right. They're not wrong about the building needing repairs. If I fix their issues and agree to a fair rent, not Adrian's insane hikes, I kill their little movement and keep the building full. The upfront cost saves us a fortune in lawsuits and empty rooms. She met his gaze. It also makes the family look a little less like slumlords. Marcus paused again. Then a smile spread across his face, changing his whole vibe. Vincent is going to love you. A huge wave of relief hit her. Really? 100%. It's smart, it's practical. It shows you're thinking about the entire game, not just one move. He stood up. Pitch it exactly like that tomorrow. When Caruso questions the cost, don't even blink. Stick to your guns. Are you going to be there? I'll be in the room, but I'm not saving you. This is your fight. Marcus headed for the door, then stopped. Elena, you've actually impressed me. I honestly didn't think you had this in you. You told me to prove I was worth it, so I am. You're doing way more than that. He looked her right in the eye. You're showing them that this is your turf now, not as some grieving widow, not as some scared girl playing dress up. You're showing them you're a threat, a serious one. That word, threat, should have hurt. Instead, it felt like the highest compliment he could possibly give. The meeting next morning was a total bloodbath. Caruso picked apart every single number. Romano kept poking holes in her strategy. Vincent just watched silently like he was enjoying some private theater. Marcus stayed against the wall, giving absolutely zero backup. Elena didn't back down an inch, defending every decision and explaining her logic. When Caruso called her weak for negotiating with tenants, she gave him a death stare. Adrian built this business to be profitable for the long haul. Squeezing tenants dry doesn't do that. My plan will. You could have heard a pin drop in that room. Then, Vincent's laugh cut through the silence, a rough sound that even surprised him. Gotta admit, the woman has guts. The numbers are solid, Marcus finally said, his first words of the meeting. The logic is sound. I say we approve her plan and give her full control over the assets. Caruso started to argue, but one look from Vincent shut him up. Done. Elena, I want weekly reports. Any big moves still need my approval or Marcus's, but the day-to-day is all yours. Under the table, her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Thank you. The meeting was done. As everyone filed out, her eyes locked with Marcus's across the room. The look of pride on his face almost took her breath away. She'd done it, proved them all wrong, locked down her spot. Now came the hard part, actually keeping it. For the next 2 weeks, Elena lived and breathed the job. She met with building managers, walked the properties, and even sat in on tenant meetings. The ringleader, a woman named Sarah, was just a tough lady fighting for her neighbors. Elena listened, negotiated, and they found a middle ground. The hotel was a bigger problem. The manager was stealing and had ties to a rival crew. Elena took her proof straight to Marcus, who handled it. The manager just disappeared. A new one showed up. Profits shot up. The rumors started spreading. Adrian's widow wasn't just a figurehead. She actually knew what she was doing. This should have made things easier. Instead, it made everything a mess. Marcus started to distance himself. Their talks became strictly business. Quick updates, signatures, that was it. He wouldn't meet her eyes, finding excuses to never be alone with her. Elena told herself it was just for their safety, but that didn't stop the ache. The cold distance he was creating felt like a total stab in the back after the connection they'd had. 3 weeks after her win, a car slowed down beside her as she was leaving the hotel. The window slid down, revealing a stranger. Mrs. Varley, my boss wants a word. Her security team immediately swarmed the car, guns appearing out of nowhere. The guy just smiled. No need for all that. It's just a conversation. My boss has information about the attack on your wedding day. We thought you might be interested. Elena's heart was pounding. Tell your boss to go through the proper channels. The proper channels are compromised. That's the information. He held a card out the window. Tomorrow night, the address is on there. Come alone if you want the truth about who killed Adrian. The car took off before she could even respond. Her head of security grabbed the card. We need to tell Mr. Marcus about this immediately. But Elena's mind was racing. Info on Adrian's killer, on the rat in their organization. This was either a massive trap or the break they'd been waiting for. She took the card back. Let me think about this. That night, Marcus blew into her room without knocking. What the hell were you thinking? He slammed a file on her desk. The security report. Some random guy offers you intel on a street corner and you don't think to tell us? Elena stood up, matching his anger. I was about to. When? After you went to this secret meeting by yourself and got yourself killed? I'm not stupid enough to go alone. But you're stupid enough to even consider going. He was angrier than she'd ever seen him. This is the exact trap I warned you about. They dangled the one thing you want answers, and you're ready to walk right into it. Or it's real. Someone who actually knows who betrayed us. Elena grabbed the card off her desk. You found Jack squat for weeks. Maybe this is our shot. It's not a shot, it's bait. Marcus snatched the card right out of her hand. And you are not taking it. You don't have the right to order me around. If there are answers about Adrian's murder, I'm going to be the one to get them, not you. His jaw was set like concrete. You will not risk your life over some stranger's empty promise. And why can't I? You do it every single day. That's different. How? Elena stepped closer to him, her rage boiling over. Because you're the trained killer? The tough guy while I'm just the widow who runs the numbers because my life doesn't matter? The words ripped out of him, raw and painful. My death changes nothing. The business keeps going. Vincent finds a replacement. The world doesn't stop. But if you died, he choked on the very idea, his breath hitching. If I die, what happens then? Elena pushed. The properties get handed over. The family finds a new puppet. So tell me, Marcus. If you die, he whispered, I lose everything. Admitting that just took a piece out of him. And that is exactly why this meeting is a no-go for you. I am already playing defense for you, not offense to win. That path gets us both killed. The fight in Elena just disappeared. My mistake. I should have told you right away. Marcus slumped against the wall. You need intel on Adrian. I get it. But this is the wrong way. Then what is the right way? Let me handle it. I will get the site swept for traps. If it is clean, we will set up a secure niche. He finally looked at her, and the exhaustion there was a physical blow. Just promise me you will do nothing stupid, I promise. Marcus nodded and turned to leave. Wait, Elena called out. You are keeping me at arm's length. His hand froze up the knob. My schedule's been insane. You are ghosting me, she shot back. Since the presentation, did I mess something up? You have done everything perfectly. That is the problem. Marcus faced her again. You were supposed to be a headache to be handled, a weakness to be managed. Instead, you have become mission critical, and they all see it, making the bullseye on your back even bigger. So this is your brilliant plan, to act like I do not exist? I am protecting us both by keeping things professional. But his eyes were telling a whole other story, one of intense longing that she felt deep in her own gut. She closed the gap between them. And what if I am done with this distance? Elena. What if the only thing I really want is the one thing guaranteed to get us killed? His control was shattering. She saw it in his clenched jaw, in the way his hands became fists. You have no idea what you are asking for. Oh, I do. I am asking for the truth, for you to see me as something other than fragile. I am asking for. Then he kissed her. This was not like before. It was not a storm. It was a takeover. His hands came up to frame her face, his thumb a soft touch on her skin, while his lips moved with world-ending purpose. Elena just melted into him, her hands grabbing his shirt, pulling him closer. This was the connection she had been desperate for, the unspoken promise she was not alone in this hell. Marcus pulled back, their foreheads touching. This is a monumentally bad idea. The absolute worst, Elena whispered. We cannot do this. We really should not, Elena. Her name on his lips was a prayer, a wish, and a total surrender. She pulled him back into the kiss, and this time it was all in. A sharp rap on the door blew the moment apart. Marcus pulled back instantly, his face turning into that familiar cold mask he used as armor. He fixed his shirt, moving to the window as if nothing at all had happened. Come in, Elena managed, her voice totally shaky. Maria entered carrying a tray. Your dinner, miss? I figured you would want it in here after such a long day. Thank you, Maria. The woman set down the tray, her eyes flicking between them with total understanding. Mr. Marcus, are you staying for dinner? No, I was just heading out. His eyes refused to meet hers. We will deal with the security stuff in the morning. He was gone, and Elena had the strongest urge to smash something against the door he just used. Maria began setting out the food on the small table. He is fighting it with everything he has got, you know. Elena went completely still. I have no idea what you are talking about. No, of course you do not. Maria's smile was gentle. But if you did, you would know that Mr. Marcus has never looked at anyone the way he looks at you, not in all my years working here. I am an old woman. I see things. I also know when to keep my mouth shut. She walked to the door. Just be careful, miss. In this place, every single glance is noted, and not all of them are friendly. The memory of his kiss was still on her lips. Her mind was a chaotic storm of things left unsaid. It was off limits, a huge risk, the exact kind of situation that led to a body bag in their world. And still, it was real. The bond between them was the only true thing in a life of lies and strategy. Elena just poked at her food, wondering how to survive, wanting the one thing she could never have. The next morning, a team Marcus sent checked out the location on the card. It was a proper corporate tower downtown, not the sketchy warehouse you would expect for an ambush. The business listed was a security firm with no obvious mob connections. It could still be a setup, Marcus pointed out in the briefing, but a much classier one than we are used to. So, what is the play? Elena asked. Vincent glanced up. We move forward with extreme caution. Marcus will take the meat with a full escort. You will stay here. But they asked for me by name, which is the exact reason you will not go. Vincent's tone was final. If their intel is real, they do not need you there. And if it is a trap, we are not about to hand them their main target. Elena wanted to argue, but his logic was bulletproof. Fine, but I want a complete debrief. You will get it, Marcus promised her. That night, Elena paced her room, completely trapped while Marcus was out. Her mind cycled through a dozen horrific scenarios. A setup, a hit, a betrayal. Every sound in the hallway was a potential threat. He did not come back until well after midnight. He found her waiting up, fully dressed, sleep being a total impossibility. Well, she demanded. Marcus poured himself a drink first. It was legit, in a way. Explain that. The contact is part of a splinter cell from inside our own organization. Men loyal to Adrian who hate the new management since he was taken out. They are trying to seize control. No, they are offering intel for a price. Marcus took a long drink. They have identified the traitor, the one who gave Chen's crew the info about the wedding. Who was it? Michael Romano, the family's lawyer, the same man who challenged her at her very first dinner. It should have been a bombshell, but it felt like it was always going to be him. For what reason, she asked. Greed. Adrian was about to completely change the family's legal side, which would have put Romano out of a job. So he went to Chen, offering to help take out Adrian for a new position. Marcus's face was a mask of pure rage. Now Chen is gone, but Romano is still in our house, selling intel to whoever will pay. What is your plan? To do what needs to be done. Marcus put his glass down. There is more. This group, Adrian's loyalists, they want payment for this information. And what is that? Marcus looked her straight in the eye. They want you to have real authority in this family. For Vincent to name you as Adrian's successor. For more than just the properties. They feel the family is directionless without Adrian's vision, and they think you are its new compass. Elena dropped into a chair. They have no clue who I am. They know you have solid judgment. They know you negotiated with the tenant leader instead of just destroying her. They see you running clean businesses in a clean way. Marcus moved closer. They think you can lead this family to a future with less bloodshed. That is crazy. I have zero influence here. You have more than you know. You have Vincent's respect. You have my respect. Even Caruso admits that you are competent. Marcus knelt down in front of her. This faction is offering you a partnership, support from inside our own operation. In return, they want you to push for change, for legit businesses, and a pivot away from crime. What path do I take? She wondered. He warned, you have to be careful. This is either you taking the throne or a well-laid trap. His hand closed over hers. But if you want this, real authority beyond managing properties, this is the only path. You build your allies. You make yourself so essential they cannot imagine this family without you. The weight of it all hit Elena. Romano is finished tomorrow night. Vincent wants a public spectacle, a message to any other traitors. Marcus's voice sounded dead. You do not need to see it. I have to. He pulled away. To have any real power here, Elena said, I need to understand this life completely, especially the dark parts. She met his gaze head on. I need to see what they call justice in this world. For a long moment, Marcus just studied her face. You might not like what you see. I probably won't, she admitted, but I have to see it. The next night, the family gathered in a private room of the mansion, not the main hall or Vincent's office, but a room Elena never even knew existed. No windows, completely soundproofed, with a single chair bolted into the center of the floor. 2 guards hauled Romano in. He tried to hold on to some dignity, but Elena saw the terror flash in his eyes as he saw Vincent waiting for him. Michael. Vincent's voice was deceptively calm. You served this family for 12 years. You handled our legal work with skill and discretion. I put my trust in you. Sir, I have no idea what you have been told. Stop. The calm was gone. We have confessions from 4 different people. We have the bank statements showing the payments from Chen's organization. We have call records, messages. We have all we need. The color completely drained from Romano's face. It was not personal. Adrienne was about to destroy everything we built. Adrienne was about to make us legitimate, Vincent corrected him. There is a big difference. He gave Marcus a nod. As Marcus walked toward him with a pistol, a sick feeling twisted in Elena's stomach. She had demanded to be here, to know this world. But the reality was a nightmare beyond her imagination. Wait. Elena's voice cut through the room. Every single head snapped in her direction. Marcus shot her a look that screamed, "Shut up." His punishment for Adrienne's murder needs to be public, she pushed, her voice way more confident than she felt. The other families are circling, sniffing for weakness. They have to see we hunt down and punish our own traitors, that our house is still solid. Vincent chewed on that. You want a show? I want to send a message so damn loud every rival in this city hears it. Romano started struggling against his ropes. You can't do this. This is an execution. This is justice, Vincent said with an icy smile. And the girl has a point. We need to make sure everyone understands the price of betrayal. Marcus set it up 3 days from now. Send out invites to the other families, all the major players. I want them all to see this. Marcus put his weapon away. It'll be done. They dragged Romano out of the room, his shouts echoing down the hall. Soon it was just Elena, Marcus, and Vincent. That was a boss move, Vincent told her. Practical, ruthless. Adrienne was always too soft for moves like that, but you get what's necessary. A wave of sickness washed over Elena, but her face was a steel mask. I get that power is the only language this world speaks. Excellent. In that case, you're going to love the offer I'm about to make. Vincent leaned back in his chair. I'm an old man, Elena. This life chews you up fast. I've got maybe 5 good years left to run this thing. Adrienne was supposed to take over with Marcus as his enforcer, but my son is dead. And Marcus? He glanced at his other son. Marcus is a prodigy at what he does, but he wasn't built to be the king. He's the ghost in the shadows, not the man on the throne. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. I'm offering you a seat at the table, Vincent continued. Real power, you'll keep growing the legit businesses, be our public face, and make the connections we need with the straight world. Marcus will handle security and the wet work. Together, you two will lead this family into the future. Elena's heart was hammering her ribs. You want me to take Adrienne's place? I want you to be better than Adrienne. He had the vision, but not the stomach for the dirty work. You, apparently, have both. Vincent stood up. Think about my offer, but don't take forever. The wolves are at the door, and we have to show them we've got teeth. He left, leaving her alone with Marcus. You set this up, she said, her voice a low hiss. The meeting with the captains, this whole speech with Vincent, you've been maneuvering me into this spot the whole time. Marcus didn't even try to deny it. I told you that you were a player in your own right. I wasn't kidding. You have the exact skills we're missing. A mind for the long game, A friendly face hiding a ruthless core, a talent for making deals Adrian never could because everyone knew he was too soft. And what do you get out of it? I'm free to be what I am without pretending I'm something else. He moved closer. I get to keep you here, alive and where I can see you, instead of watching you walk away with Vincent's cash and waiting for some enemy to grab you just to hurt us. That's not the only reason. No. Marcus's hand came up, cradling her jaw. I get to work with you, to build something with you, and maybe figure out how this thing between us can actually work instead of us constantly fighting it. Elena felt herself leaning into his touch. This is insane. Your brother's only been gone a month. I can barely handle his properties, let alone help run a criminal empire. And us. She gestured between them. This is so twisted, it shouldn't even exist. I know what they'll all whisper, that I schemed my way into this, that I'm just using you, that... Let them whisper. Marcus's thumb grazed her lip. Only Vincent's opinion matters, and he's already given his okay. Everyone else will either get in line or they'll get disappeared. That's the way it is. And what are we? Elena demanded. If I do this, if I take this job, what happens to us? Marcus was quiet for a long beat. We're careful. We're smart. We don't give anyone a weapon to use against us, but we stop pretending this isn't real. That's barely an answer. It's the only one I have right now, he murmured, his forehead resting against hers. I can't offer you a fairy tale or a normal life, none of the things you deserve, but I swear I will stand by you, protect you, and help you build whatever future you want for this family. And if your plan is to tear it all down, to take everything legit and walk away from this criminal world, then I'll help you do that too. Even if it guts everything my father built. His gaze was locked on hers. You asked me what happens when the crisis is over. This is it. Whatever you decide to build, whatever path you pick, I'm with you. Elena yanked him down for a kiss, pouring everything she couldn't say into it. All the terror, the ambition, the determination, and the weird, brutal connection that had sparked between them in this nightmare. When they finally broke apart, Marcus rested his cheek against her hair. Does this mean yes? It means maybe. Elena pulled back, her eyes meeting his. I need to know that what happened to Romano is something I actually want. I have to see if I can carry the weight of this world before I agree to rule it. Fair enough. Marcus kissed her forehead. In 3 days, you'll know for sure. The meeting was held in a Varelli-owned warehouse near the docks. Neutral territory, a place where other families would feel safe enough to come, but isolated enough to control. Elena picked her outfit carefully. A stark black suit, her hair pulled back in a severe knot. She looked like she was heading to a funeral. In a way, she was. The warehouse was set up like an amphitheater. Rows of seats all faced a platform where Romano was kneeling, his hands tied. The heads of every major crime family in the city filled those seats, their faces a mix of morbid curiosity and cold calculation. Elena sat in the front row, with Vincent on one side and Marcus on the other. She clasped her hands in her lap, trying to stop them from shaking. Vincent got up and addressed the crowd. You all know why you're here. Michael Romano betrayed our family. He sold info that got my son killed. In our world, there's only one penalty for that. Romano grunted, but a guard quickly shut him up. But before we get to that, Vincent announced, I want to introduce someone. Elena Varelli, Adrian's widow. She's taken over his business interests and has proven to be a vital asset to our organization. From this day forward, she speaks for our family in all legitimate dealings." A quiet buzz went through the crowd. Elena could feel their eyes on her, sizing her up, deciding if she was a player or a target. "Rise," Marcus whispered next to her. Elena stood, facing the collection of killers and crooks who really ran the city. She met their stares, refusing to back down. "This little gathering was Mrs. Varelli's idea," Vincent declared. "She wanted everyone here to witness what happens to traitors in our family. She wanted to send a clear message that we are now more dangerous than we were before the attack, that we haven't just bounced back, we've evolved." He nodded to Marcus. Marcus stood, walked up onto the platform, and drew his gun. Romano started begging, the words muffled by a guard's hand clamped over his mouth. Elena watched, her eyes wide open, never looking away. This was the reality of the power she was being offered. This was the blood that would be on her hands one way or another if she said yes to Vincent's deal. The gunshot was deafening in the huge space. Romano crumpled to the floor, dead instantly. Nobody in the crowd so much as blinked. For them, it was just another transaction. Marcus slid back into his seat like he'd just finished some basic chore. His face was a total ice mask, completely unreadable. Then Vincent stepped up to lecture the room again. He made it clear that any other rat thinking about betrayal better sear this image into their brain. The Varley family protects their own and absolutely demolishes their enemies. Nothing's different, except now they're even stronger and more unified. The meeting pretty much exploded after that. Reps from other families scrambled to kiss Vincent's ring and renew their deals. A few cronies sidled up to Elena with some fake condolences for Adrian, a total political move. She just smiled, played along with their script, and felt this weirdly hollow sense of clarity. This was her turf now. A world of blood, money, and planned brutality, all wrapped up in fancy suits and polite talk. Back at the crib, Marcus found her in her room, just staring out at the dark property. "You good?" he asked. "I'm not even sure," Elena replied, turning to look him in the eye. "I watched you take a man's life tonight. Watched it go down because I gave the green light. And all I feel is relief that the traitor is gone. That just proves you're a realist, not a monster." "Does it?" she shot back with a dark laugh. "A month ago, I would have been horrified. I'd have sprinted away from all this screaming my lungs out. So now I'm figuring out how to use all this to lock down our power. What does that make me?" Marcus crossed the room, pulling her into a hug. "It means you're a survivor. Someone who bends instead of breaking. Someone strong enough to exist in this world without completely losing their soul. And how do you know I haven't lost it already? Because you're still asking the question." He gently lifted her chin. "The second you stop wondering if you've gone too far is the second you have. But you're not there." Elena wanted to believe him, to think she could live this life without becoming someone who ordered hits without blinking. But her mind was already made up, even if the words were still unsaid. "I'm taking Vincent's offer," she declared. "I'm going to help run this family." Marcus's arms tightened around her. "You sure about this?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." She pulled back to look him dead in the eye, on one condition. "And that is?" "We do this as a unit, no more you in the shadows and me in the light, totally separate. We're going to be partners in this, real partners. You won't make a big play without my say-so, and I won't make one without yours, Elena, for real. if I'm going to do this, I need to know you're with me, not just protecting me or using me, but standing right by my side. Marcus studied her face for a long beat before he finally gave a nod. Partners, I can live with that. Even when I want to take the family in a direction you fight, even then, I'll argue with you, but I'll ultimately follow your lead. His smile was barely there. You're better at the grand strategy anyway. And the other thing between us? Marcus pulled her closer, his hand settling on her waist. The other thing is complicated and will probably get us both into a world of trouble, but I'm done pretending I don't want it. Want you. We'll have to be careful. You know people will talk. Let them. Marcus's kiss was slow and decisive. I've given my whole life to doing what was necessary, to being what the family needed. For once, I'm taking something I actually want. Yelena kissed him back, a knot of stress she'd been carrying for weeks finally starting to loosen. This was still dangerous, still complicated, still a potentially massive mistake. But it was real, and right then, that's all that mattered. They broke apart as a knock came at the door. "Miss Elena," Maria's voice said from the other side, "Mr. Vincent wants to see you in his study." Marcus stepped back, his expression going blank again. "I'll go with you." Vincent's study was thick with the smell of cigars when they walked in. The old Don looked exhausted but pleased. "Sit," he ordered. Elena sat. Marcus stood guard behind her chair, a quiet pillar of support. "The other families liked what they saw tonight," Vincent began. "You made an impression. A few asked about your future with us. I told them you're being trained to handle the legitimate businesses, with room to grow." Elena pushed. "And?" "They're curious, but not hostile. In our world, that's as good as it gets." Vincent poured 3 glasses of whiskey and passed them out. "I'm making it official. You're a full associate in the family business. You'll get access to all the financial records. You'll be in all the important meetings. And your vote will count just as much as Marcus's." Elena took the glass, her hand shaking just a bit. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This job comes with a price. You're a target now. People will try to kill you, bribe you, or flip you against us. Every move you make reflects on this whole family." "I understand." Vincent raised his glass. "To the future of the Varley family. May we survive it." They drank, the whiskey burning a trail down Elena's throat. Over the next 3 months, Elena learned just how deep her new role went. The legitimate businesses were just a front. Underneath were operations that ranged from morally gray to straight up illegal. Money laundering, protection rackets, smuggling. Elena couldn't fix it all at once, but she started making smart changes, moving cash into clean investments that could one day replace the dirty money, and building connections with people who could help the family go straight. It was slow, frustrating work, but she was actually getting it done. Adrian's loyal crew, the same guys who exposed Romano, became her power base. They helped her play the internal political games, gave her intel on potential threats, and backed her ideas even when they caused arguments. Marcus kept his promise to be a true partner. They fought sometimes hard and loud about tactics and goals, but they always worked it out, finding a compromise that balanced the need for safety with the push for legitimacy. And in private, far from the prying eyes of the family, they were building something that was starting to feel like a real relationship. They stole hours in Marcus's office after everyone else had gone to bed. They had quiet mornings in Elena's suite before the day's madness kicked off. They shared quick, careful touches in hallways when they thought no one could see them. It wasn't normal. It was never going to be normal, but it was theirs. 6 months after Adrian died, Vincent called another family meeting. "I'm stepping down," he said bluntly. "My health is failing. I'm giving daily control to Elena and Marcus. They will lead this family together. Elena will run the legitimate businesses and public relations. Marcus will handle security and internal discipline." The news was met with a mix of reactions. Some guys nodded like they expected it. Others looked skeptical, but nobody said a word against it. Vincent's word was still law. "Any questions?" Vincent asked. Caruso raised a hand. "What if they have a big disagreement? Who gets the final say?" Vincent looked between Elena and Marcus. "They'll figure it out. I'm not going to micromanage from my retirement." After the meeting, Elena found Marcus in the armory, methodically cleaning his guns. "We're really doing this," she said quietly. "Looks that way." He didn't look up from his work. "You okay with this?" Marcus set the gun down and finally met her eyes. "Are you?" "I asked you first." He cracked a small smile. "I'm terrified. You've been here 6 months and you're already running half the family." "I've been here my entire life, and I've never had this much responsibility." "We'll handle it together, right?" Marcus got up and walked toward her, because sooner or later, we're going to clash over something huge, something with no easy answer. What's the plan then? Elena had been up nights thinking about it. Then we talk until we find a solution we can both live with. That's what partners do. And if we can't, then we flip a coin. She was only half joking. Or we can take turns having the final vote, or bring in a mediator. There are options that don't involve us destroying everything we've built. Marcus pulled her into a hug. "You're really committed to this, to us." "I'm committed to making something better than what we had before. Whether that's us or just a partnership, we'll figure it out as we go." Elena looked up at him. "And you? Are you committed?" "To you?" "Yeah. To this crazy plan to reform a crime family from the inside?" "Apparently, yeah, to that too." He kissed her on the forehead. "I must be out of my mind." "Probably." Elena smiled into his chest. "But we're crazy together." The next year was a trial by fire. 2 more attempts on her life, both thwarted by Marcus's security measures. 3 hostile takeover attempts by rival families, all fought off by Elena's smart alliances and Marcus's brutal efficiency. 1 federal investigation got dangerously close to indicting top guys before Elena's lawyers found a technicality that got the whole thing shut down. But they made it. And they didn't just survive, they started to thrive. The real estate portfolio grew. Elena bought 3 new hotels and a small restaurant chain, all running clean and making good money. That income let her shut down 2 protection rackets and a smuggling route, moving the guys into legit jobs. For some, the change was too slow. Adrian's old crew wanted more radical moves, but for the old school guys, it was happening way too fast. Several of the old-timers quit the family rather than adapt. Marcus backed her through every crisis, supporting her decisions in public while giving her the straight truth in private about what was achievable and what was pure fantasy. He was the one who dealt with the people who needed dealing with, while she built the bridges that would lead them to legitimacy. They learned each other's rhythms, their strengths, and their deepest flaws. They learned when to push and when to back off. They learned to argue without breaking each other and how to help without coddling. And somewhere in that trial by fire, the careful distance they had maintained between them started to evaporate. It began with little things, Marcus's hand resting on her back during meetings. So get this. Elena's always dropping these little hints, a touch on his arm, a look that lasts way too long. It's clear something's brewing. Then one night, after a brutal deal, Marcus crashes in her room and just doesn't leave. They never talk about it, never label it. Their connection stays in the shadows, super discreet. They're terrified of getting caught, but behind closed doors, they're building something dangerously real. 18 months after Adrian's death, Vincent summons Elena. The old Don is looking rough. The sickness he's been hiding is finally winning. He's huddled in a chair, wrapped in a blanket in the middle of summer. "Sit down," he croaks, his voice shot. "How are you?" she asks. "Like I'm dying, because I am," he says with a weak smile. "The docs gave me 6 months, maybe less." Elena's heart drops. Vincent gave her a real shot, backing her vision for the family against his own old ways. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "Don't be," he says. "I outlived most guys in our line of work, built an empire, and dodged more hits than I can count. He needs to know the family is secure. It will be, Marcus and I." But Vincent cuts her off. "I know what you two are doing. Don't look so shocked. Turns out he's not blind. You think you're slick, but Maria's been my intel source for years. Elena is busted. Sir, I don't care who you're with as long as you run my family right. And you are." He looks right at her. "But I need you to make it official. Not the romance. That's your business. The leadership." He wants them to be joint heads of the family, equal partners. "Vincent, Adrian was my favorite," he admits bluntly. "Marcus knows it, but he's built for this, and you're better than both of them." He says she has Adrian's vision and Marcus's grit. "Together, you might actually make this family respectable without wrecking it." Elena's throat is tight. "What if we fail?" "Then you fail. But at least you'll fail trying to build something new, not just protecting my old ways." Vincent grabs her hand. "I'm proud of you, Elena. Adrian brought you here to save you, but you saved all of us." 3 weeks later, Vincent Varelli dies in his sleep. The funeral is a huge event. Every major family, plus politicians and judges, shows up. An impossible guest list. Elena and Marcus stand at the grave, a united front. She's in black, a true Varelli. Marcus is a rock beside her, his grief buried deep. After, they host the reception at the estate. Hundreds of guests offer fake sympathy, all of them probing for cracks in the new leadership now that Vincent is gone. Elena plays the part perfectly, smiling and thanking them while projecting pure strength. But once the last car leaves and the house is quiet, she finds Marcus in the study. He's sitting in his father's chair, just staring, a whiskey untouched. "Hey," she says softly. He looks up, eyes red but dry. "He's really gone?" "Yeah." Elena hops onto the desk. "How are you?" "I don't know. He was a ruthless bastard who made me into someone I hate," Marcus says, his voice raw. "But he was my father, and now I'm supposed to just take his place?" "You're not taking his place. We're forging our own way," she says, taking his hand. "Are we?" he asks. "Or are we just pretending to reform his dark empire?" He hits the one question she's been dodging. "We're making changes," she argues. Slow but real. 3 ops are shut down. 6 legit companies are open. We have new allies. "And 2 guys died on my order last month," Marcus snaps, pulling his hand away. Don't sugarcoat it, Elena. We're still killers with better suits. So what's your plan? We just give up, walk away? I don't know what I want. He goes to the window. Vincent died thinking we could change this. What if he was wrong? What if this is as good as it gets? Then we'll make it a little less monstrous, and then a little less after that. We keep going until we've built something to be proud of. That could take decades. Then it takes decades. She makes him face her. I didn't sign up because it was easy, Marcus. I signed up because it was worth it. He just stares at her for a long moment. Then he pulls her into a hug, clinging to her like a lifeline. I love you, he whispers, shocking them both. Everyone I love gets broken by this life. I love you too, and I'm not going anywhere. You can't promise that. Yes, I can, because this was my choice. I chose you. I chose this insane, dangerous life where we're trying to reform a crime syndicate while falling in love. She pulls back to look him in the eye. I am all in, Marcus. I have been since I chose to stay instead of taking Vincent's money. He kisses her then, and this one feels different. It's a promise, not a plea. When they break apart, she rests her forehead on his. We're going to be all right. How are you so sure? Because we're in this together, not alone. She smiles. And because your father believed in us, that has to mean something. Marcus lets out a laugh that's almost a sob. He'd probably hate who we are now, the soft enforcer and the rebellious widow. He'd love it, Elena says, pulling him to the desk. Work to do. Just give me a minute. Take your time. He pulls himself together, his face now calm and resolved. Okay. 5 years after Adriana's passing, the Varley dynasty is a whole different beast. Of their 9 illegal ops, 7 are gone, flipped into legit businesses. The last 2, gambling and shady finance, are on a 2-year plan to go clean. The world is still dangerous, and enemies are always lurking, but the non-stop bloodshed has chilled out. The fear Vincent used as cash is being traded for actual respect. Elena runs the legit side with ice-cold precision, becoming a city icon for smart deals and big projects. Yeah, rumors of her underworld ties are always there, but no one has proof. She's on charity boards and at galas, prying open doors the Varley name once slammed shut. Marcus has also transformed. He's still the protector, but his crew handles trouble without a body count. Get this, he's even in college studying business and criminal justice. A year after Vincent died, they went public as a couple. No more hiding, the family just had to deal. Nobody said a word, but you could feel the judgment hanging in the air. Elena was a powerhouse, and Marcus was the live wire you didn't touch. They escaped the city to a spot that wasn't for living, just for breathing. A safe house that was theirs, not the family's. And get this? On a Saturday, 5 years and 3 months after Adriana's ghost moved in, Marcus proposed. As the sun came up, he pulled out a ring, his voice low. Look, I know how this is gonna play, he said. The gossip's gonna be insane. Too soon for them, way too late for us. But I need this. I need you. I gotta end this chapter of not knowing. She glanced from the ring to his face, letting his words sink in. 5 years, she stated, the number hanging heavy. The whispers are gonna be a roar, that I moved on too fast, that I spit on his memory, that I was yours even when I was his. Marcus's hand, holding the ring, started to shake a little. Does what they say change your mind? Adrian's ghost popped into her head, sweet, gentle, bleeding out in her arms. a debt she could never square. She'd mourned him, a constant ache in her chest. But the guilt had faded over the years. Loving Marcus wasn't erasing Adrian. It was refusing to be a living tombstone. "No," she breathed. "It doesn't change a thing. Yes, I'll marry you." The ring, a clean band of platinum and diamonds, slid right on. "Perfect," he whispered, pulling her into a kiss that sealed a million unspoken deals. This wasn't her first time becoming a Varley, but it was the first time it was her call. This wasn't a trade for safety. It was a partnership forged in hellfire with a guy who saw her inner monster and didn't even flinch. "We are completely insane," she murmured against his lips. A small smile appeared. "We were always insane. This just makes it official." 3 months later, they got hitched quietly at the estate, with only their ride-or-dies watching, miles away from the prying eyes and fancy ballrooms of their old life. 5 years on, Maria was right there with her again, like history was on repeat. But this time, the hands fixing the dress were rock steady. The woman in the mirror wasn't some scared kid being traded for protection, but a queen stepping into a destiny she built herself. "You look happy," Maria said softly. "I am," Elena shot back, staring at her own reflection. The cream-colored dress, not pure white, felt like the truth. "Is this messed up?" she asked out loud. "After all of it?" Maria's eyes got a little teary. "Mr. Adrian, he would have wanted this for you. He knew you didn't love him. He just hoped you'd find someone you actually could. And I think," Maria added, "he'd be happy it was Mr. Marcus." The ceremony was a fast, no-nonsense affair, run by a judge who'd been on their payroll for years. Elena's vows weren't just talk, they were anchors she threw straight into Marcus's eyes. His promises back were just as solid, a vow to share the load. When they kissed, it felt less like a finale and more like page 1 of a wild new story. The garden party afterward had a vibe her first, sterile wedding never could. The joy here was real, a total middle finger to the suffocating drama of Vincent's reign. As night fell, Elena snuck off to the terrace, just looking down at the fragile piece they'd built. He found her there, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "What are you looking at?" he asked. "The distance," she answered, leaning into him. "How crazy different everything is. 5 years ago, I was in a ballroom while my husband was dying on the floor. Tonight, I'm married to his brother, a queen in his empire." She paused. "It's a wild ride." A hint of sadness crossed her face. "I'll always regret that Adrian's gone, that it had to go down like this." She turned to face him, locking eyes. "But I don't regret us. Never this." He kissed her forehead. "Me neither." They just stood there, watching the party, both burdened and blessed by the fact they were still standing. "So what now?" Elena's question was a soft whisper in the night. "Now," he replied, a slight smile on his face, "we keep building. We turn this family's name into something that isn't a curse." He went on, "Maybe one day we find something close to a normal life in this screwed-up world." "I'd like that," she said, rising to kiss him. "But not just yet. We still have so much to fix." "Always," Marcus agreed, holding her close. "But we do it together." 10 years after Adrian's death, Elena Varley stood before the city council. She laid out a plan for urban renewal, affordable housing and job centers, a real chance for the people the system threw away. Every single dollar was legit, pulled from clean Varley businesses with no trace of criminal blood money. The council's approval was slam dunk. Marcus was waiting outside, a solid, silent force of support. A decade had carved new lines on their faces, making them tougher in some spots, softer in others. But the bond between them, tested by fire and blood, was unbreakable. The verdict was all he asked. Approved. We start digging next month. She took his hand and said, "The Varley name is now building homes instead of breaking them." A silent thought passed between them. Vincent would hate this. Adrian would have loved it. Their drive back to the estate was filled with a quiet peace they had totally earned. A new kind of quiet had settled over the estate, with fewer guards and shadows lurking. The old empire had been taken apart piece by piece, its rotten center replaced with a foundation that could actually see the light of day. Ghosts still lingered, old enemies who only remembered the family's crimes. But the change was real. That night, lying next to Marcus, Elena's mind drifted back to the girl she used to be, showing up at this house in a blood-stained wedding dress. A scared little thing, positive her life was done. But she hadn't just survived. She took charge, flipping a world designed to break her into her own kingdom, turning the ashes of her past into a life worth fighting for. "What's with the smile?" Marcus mumbled, half asleep. "Us," she whispered back. "That we pulled it off." "Pulled what off?" "All of it." She snuggled closer to him. "We took down a criminal kingdom and built an honest one. We survived the hitmen, the rivals, the feds. We built something real from the wreckage of our lives. We won." He pulled her in tighter. "We're still winning," he corrected her. "Every morning is another win." "Then here's to surviving," she replied, kissing him. Outside their window, the city lights held a future. The pit Elena had fallen into 5 years ago wasn't gone. It was just part of the scenery now, but now she knew how to walk in that darkness, how to bend it to her will, how to use it as her own weapon instead of letting it destroy her. She'd become the woman Marcus always knew was in there, a straight-up force of nature. She was no longer a pawn in their chess game, but a queen who took her crown using brains, guts, and a stone-cold refusal to ever bend the knee again. The first Farley Empire was built on bloodshed. Elena was building the new one on the solid rock of her own will, the kind of power you get from writing your own story. It wasn't the life she ever pictured, but it was the life she took, fought for, and earned. And that made all the damn difference.
Life lesson: violence never ends where it begins, it simply changes hands. From a distance, the Varley family appears to be a dynasty of power, wealth, and control. Yet the deeper truth of the story is not about the organized crime at all, it is about inheritance, specifically the inheritance of violence. Adrian tries to become a bridge to something softer, something cleaner, something more humane. Marcus becomes the blade that keeps the family alive. Vincent is the architect of the machine. Elena at first seems like an outsider, but in time she becomes the mirror that reveals what the family truly is. The tragedy is not merely that Adrian dies, the tragedy is that his death proves how deeply violence has already shaped every person in that house. Vincent raises sons in a world where tenderness looks like weakness. Marcus learns that love must be hidden because attachment creates targets. Adrian believes kindness can redeem corruption, but kindness without structure becomes martyrdom. Elena enters the family as someone looking for refuge and discovers that refuge built on blood can never remain innocent. This is the cycle of violence in its purest form. One generation uses brutality to survive. The next generation inherits the wounds, the methods, and the fear. Even when they reject the philosophy, they still breathe its air. The sons do not choose the battlefield, but the battlefield chooses what kind of men they become. And yet the story offers a difficult kind of hope. Elena and Marcus do not defeat violence with purity. They defeat it by refusing to worship it. That distinction matters. They do not pretend the world is soft. They simply refuse to let brutality be the final language of power. They begin redirecting the empire toward legitimacy, structure, and reform. The lesson then is not naive. It does not say love heals everything. It says something far harder. A person must consciously interrupt the legacy that made them, or they will eventually become its servant. Violence is not only an action, it is a system, a habit, a worldview, and if no one dares to break its rhythm, it simply changes names, faces, and suits, while remaining the same wound.